Hey, Tim, it's Brian Phillips. Look at this. We've got the Eachine 650 millimeter Mobula, correct?
Yes.
It's just a cool plane. This is supposed to be designed for FPV. There's a couple of different inserts you can use on the nose. I chose to use the non-insert. We fully expect to lose our decals. They didn't stick very good to the material because it's so slick with mold release. This has all the goodies you need to make this thing fly. You can also order it as an FPV kit, which will have some different stuff included than what we show. We're using an NX3 flight stabilizer. AR410, we'll show you how to set that up. Got a little voltage alarm here. And then this happens to be a 1003S. It calls for an 1800 4S. I don't know why you would need a 4S in this thing, but if you're flying heavier payload, you're gonna have to go a little bit faster. That being said, we do have a stabilizer on here. Master gain is here. And then we have off and then some other setting, and I forget what the other setting is. So we'll see what it does. I'm not sure exactly how this thing's gonna launch, but we're gonna try. Our CG's just in front, just barely in front. So I think we're slightly nose heavy on this with that 1000. I did have to carve just a little teeny tiny, see how slick it is? Just a little teeny tiny out of here. Okay, so without further ado, don't cut yourself. Throttle cut is off. I'm gonna try to launch like this. The wind's kind of coming this way. So I'm gonna give it, this has way more than 1-to-1 power to weight ratio. 5-minute flight timer, but we do have the voltage alarm, so we're gonna pay attention to that. All right, here goes nothing. Okay, that was pretty hard landing. Okay, so obviously we need some trim on that. Okay, so you see that? Shut it off, turn it back on, see how it's all goofed up? Now it's working, so we're gonna try that instead. It just looks like the decals actually got pulled off of there. So I'll see if it sticks. If it doesn't stick, we'll just go ahead and take it off. I don't think it's gonna last very long. Okay, so let's check if we have throttle. Elevator up, elevator down. Everything seems to be working, except for throttle. We'll try. Okay, so far so good. Throttle cut's on. I wanna try something real quick. I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna actually just try to point it up. I don't know if that was in an auto leveling there. I can't tell, it's really hard to tell. But we do have the delta turned on this flight controller. So we'll see how this goes. There we go. Okay, a little bit too much stabilization. Master gains are down. Ooh, that's flying pretty good now. About 50% throttle, too much stabilizer, turning it down. There we go. As per expectations, there's our first decal, just came off. Little oscillation there. Turning down the stabilizer. There we go, stabilizer's down almost to off. Going to my higher expo setting, which also lowers our rates down. I'm gonna see if I can turn off the stabilizer at altitude. Okay, stabilizer's now off, and look at that thing. I am out of the stabilizer altogether, have a little bit higher rates, a little bit more expo, and obviously no oscillation going on. Boy, that thing rolls like crazy.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Okay, so it looks like when you're idle, when you're just gliding, that's when you really kind of have to fight it. But that isn't bad at all for having no stabilizer at all right now. Okay, I'm gonna get to altitude and turn on the other stabilizer and see what happens. Okay, so that's the other direction. It's not auto leveling or anything, so I think it's just the same thing in either direction. By the way, 50% throttle here. That thing is gonna be cruising like crazy. Okay, going to my middle expo mode. It's about 10% expo, 100% rates. Boy, that thing is it's symmetric on the upside down and the right side up. Blue skies are probably gonna make for terrible video footage. Going low, right through the sun, sorry, not a lot I can do about it. No rudders in this plane, as you've already figured out from watching at home. Just cruising, look at this thing. No throttle. Looks like we need a little bit more trim on the elevator. Let's see if we can get that worked out, because I am riding the elevator a little bit. As you can see, it's flying really good now. Well, I'll tell you what, these planes, these little Zod style planes, they really do fly nicely, but you just don't get a lot of room for adjustment. Once you get it flying, it's good, but boy, that first flight is always challenging. Full speed. Sorry, that was terrible. Try to work out my elevator trim there as I'm cruising by really fast. Out of the throttle altogether here. Hardly any torque impact. I think the stabilizer's helping us with that, plus the long wingspan. That is crazy fast. That's on 3S, folks. They're recommending 4. Okay, do some upside down flight performance for you here. Man, that thing is so it's so symmetric up and down. It's like it doesn't even know what direction it is. It doesn't care. Sorry, camera crew, I meant to actually execute that slightly different than it worked out. That's our timer going off for 5 minutes of flight time.
Wow, really?
Yeah, time flies when you're having fun. Cornhole? Wow, that's cool. Get that thing flying with some throttle, it gets right out of it. Cornhole, flat spin. That is so cool. Into the flight. You guys see that, how fast it recovers? That is really surprisingly good recovery. Right over the power lines, and here we go. I don't know if you guys can tell yet, but this thing's pretty fun to fly. Up and around, down the runway. Nice and subtle control inputs, out of the throttle a little bit, and then full throttle again. That's cruising. All right, through the sun, so everybody's blinded, over the house, and we'll come back down the runway. You good? Stay where you are, don't move. Thank you. Sustain full throttle pass. Up and around, and out of the throttle. Wow.
Goodness gracious.
You about to fall over from dizziness? Let's see you glide. That is incredibly solid. This NX3 stabilizer was inside our Zod Dart, I believe, which is the one that we had the complete flyaway on. But see, we're using the AR410 in this thing.
Yeah.
So I just feel like the Spectrum receiver just gives us that little bit of an edge instead of that otherwise kind of crappy DSMX receiver that we're using, that cheapy one. Costs like 10 bucks. I don't know, I've had good luck with some cheap receivers and I've had some terrible luck with some cheap receivers. I'm upside down if you can't tell. Kind of hard to tell. I think braking would make this thing way more efficient in idle flight. I'd be lying if I said I didn't pull up because I was nervous about hitting the hay then. If you guys weren't already intimately familiar with our hay pile, that's a hay pile over there. Somebody asked that question the other day. They said, what is that, hay? I said, yep, it is hay. If I hit it, it would be a glorious collision. I can tell you that for sure. Unlimited vertical, folks, on 3S. This thing is really, really, really solid. I am super surprised by how solid it is. Look at that thing. Mm-hmm. Even in slow flight performance. It's so weird when you mix the rudder to activate. When you've got a delta wing plane like this, or like that BAE Hawk where it's a banking yank, and you mix your rudder stick in, I swear your brain thinks there's a rudder, and the thing flies like it's got a rudder too. Boy, it hasn't even once tried to fall out of the sky, tip stalled or anything. Just incredible. By the way, that 1000 milliamp 3S, it's just juicy. That 1000 milliamp 3S pack actually came from JJRC. It was included in that beautiful little quad, the MO2, I believe it was. Might have been the MO5. I apologize if I'm saying the wrong model number. That was one of our favorites, and it still sits out today because it is just a cool, cool, cool thing.
And it is cold out here.
My fingers are dying right now. My index finger. Guys, we're way past our timer and it's just cruising still.
You're at 10:35 on footage.
Okay, so guys, I want to admit to making a mistake there. I had both eyes open when I went through the sun, and now I've got this crazy blue line all over my eyeballs. If I would have just closed one, I could have came out of that no problem. But instead, I had to listen to where the plane was in the sky. Not very wise. I wouldn't recommend you do that. I
Oh my goodness.
stalled there. That was weird. I was going downhill and I stalled. What are the chances of
I don't
that?
know how you saved that.
Pure luck, happenstance. So guys, I gotta say, it is really cold. We're fortunate to have a little bit of a lull in the wind, but we are not fortunate to have human fingers right now because the fingertips are just dying. And yet we are 5 full minutes over our timer, 5 minutes 11 just now. So that means that notwithstanding the fact that we were on the ground for a second when we kind of had our initial bad launch, I don't know how much more I can take. It's just so dang cold, folks. Whoa! I wonder if I killed the prop. That was definitely not. I think the motor ripped off, didn't it? Yep. Are you kidding me? I didn't even break the prop.
What?
How is that possible? Oh, look, we did lose both decals. Okay, so in closing, because I'm freezing, look at this. That's all we're gonna have to do is re-glue that.
Did it just unglue?
Yeah, it just ripped it out. That's crazy. It didn't even break the prop.
That's crazy.
What are the chances? Okay, so I have to see, just for grins and giggles, like what other damage we had. Guys, that was just me screwing up. Okay, so throttle cuts off. Wow. This thing would go forever.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's show the people real quick at home what we got for voltage. We are at, I gotta get in the shade, 3.66, 3.74, 11.1, and 3.70. So, in closing, this plane is really cool. It's a super solid flight platform, but I gotta warn you, as with other Zod and Eachine style, you know, spacecraft or whatever you want to call this thing, FPV gear platforms, you need to be careful about obviously leaving room for your FPV gear. Get your CG right and plan on a little bit of up trim if you can for your launch. Looks like the stabilizer on this thing is working fine with that little NX3, but I can definitely recommend one thing. If you're gonna buy this, I would highly recommend getting an Aero 630. It'd be a lot simpler to set up. You'd have all the features you want. And then look, even this, all I have to do is tuck that in, glue that thing back in, and we're ready to rock and roll. So if you have questions, leave them in the comments below. Obviously, stay tuned. We're gonna show the unbox, build, and radio setup next, and we're gonna show you the in-depth way that we went through this process. We show all the soldering. You do have to put all this stuff together, and that is a bit of a pain, but at the same time, it does give you full control over how it gets done. So if you're concerned about getting something that's not done right, I would recommend that you do watch. Also, now that we know what the gains are on this, I can actually set that, and then I can change the amount of gain so I have more fine tune. So instead of having this at 100, I can have this make an adjustment of like 25, because then every little bit of adjustment will be even that much more precise, and I can really fine tune this. So really cool, fun plane, definitely like it. NX8's been good for us. like the AR410 in this, if you're gonna be using that NX3, which is basically a stabilizer, we'll link to all the goodies in the video description below. And we appreciate you guys watching. Definitely come back for more. We have so much footage coming your way. It's hard to even contain. We appreciate you. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. All right, so we just got done filming our flight with the Mobula 650 millimeter, and we obviously had the wires pop out because we yanked the motor off on landing. Our throttle cut's on. I was just gonna show you the real quick wrap up on this one, because whenever we have something like this happen, we wanna show you how we resolve the problem. So it's gonna be a super easy fix. I don't even know that you would have to take this cover off, but I'm gonna go ahead and just show you exactly what I'm gonna do. This is going to give us access to where the electronic speed control is, which you'll see later or previously in the Unbox build radio setup, like we always do. And then I'm gonna show you my adjustment that I'm gonna do for my mastered gain, so that when we adjust our stabilizer gains, they will adjust in a more appropriate manner, okay? So we didn't lose any of the wiring. All we have to do is just literally tuck this down in here. And yes, you could probably do it a couple of different ways, but that's just the way I'm gonna do it. If that thing breaks off again, then that'll be fine. We'll deal with it again at that point. We might have to resolder lines if they would break free. And the other thing I need to do is glue that. So we're gonna go ahead and use some more mucilage to glue that back on, which is what we used on this build. In fact, we didn't use foam to foam because we're out of foam to foam right at the moment. And I'm assuming we'll probably end up getting more of it. We still kind of recommend the foam to foam. We think it's probably gonna be a more consistent product, even though it costs about, I think it's about the same price, might be double the price, and it's half as big. So for most of you, you'd think, why would you ever get that? Well, because it's a consistent product that works well. And we have found that it's inconsistent mucilage. Okay, so we're just gonna pull this out now. And you can see where the glue is broken free. That was a really incredible, not damaged spot. So I'm just gonna go real crazy on this because, like, who cares? It's not gonna hurt anything. Okay. And then I'm not gonna get too crazy in here, but I am gonna go ahead and do just another slathering of that stuff in there. Okay, won't hurt anything obviously to have a little extra glue in this application. And then we'll just, normally you would let that set and kind of off gas a little bit, but you don't really need to do it when it's older. Okay, so now we're gonna test this. Throttle cut's off. Everything looks solid, throttle cut's on and tested. This did come with 4 props, by the way. I just can't believe we didn't break the prop on that landing. So at any rate, this dent happened on our initial launch, which was like a failure to launch because we didn't have quite enough up elevator, so it just kind of went down. That's an unfortunate nature of doing hand launch planes. If you don't quite get it right, they tend to kind of basically crash into the ground, and there's not a lot you can do about it unless you maybe do a nice, you know, like hand toss launch, but then under throttle things behave different. Okay, so let's talk about the stabilizer. Throttle cut is on and tested. So obviously we have up and up, down and down, roll left and roll right. So everything is working. We have stabilizer on, off, or stabilizer on, okay? So I'm gonna hold this here now that we've tested everything. So this is stabilizer up and down. Everything's working. You can hear kind of about the intensity, but we attached it to this knob, okay? So when I turn it up, it gets more intense with the same amount of shaking, and then it goes all the way to nothing. Okay, so this is where we think we want it, in this range, right about here. Are you showing my hand where it is?
Yeah, on both.
So right about here in this range. So now all we have to do is go over and translate it to the screen by doing the same thing, okay? So you see its auxiliary 3 is irrelevant because that happens to just be what was tied to our knob, the right knob. Okay, so rudder. See how it's going between, what, 15 and 50, somewhere in there, 15 and 45, I would say. So I may want a little bit more some days on dead calm, and I may want a little bit less if it's super crazy windy. So I want it to be about there. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into my mix. I'm gonna go to the right knob connection here. And you can see it says 100%. So with it set to 100%, I want to get it so that my knob is about the middle, because that's where it tends to reside in normal everyday flying. And I want this to be toward the 60s, 70s, and I want this to be toward the nothing, okay? When I say nothing, I mean 0 on the rudder channel. And at the top of the range, I want it to be like 60, 70. So all I have to do now is take either the offset or the rate. I'm gonna take the rate in this case, and I'm gonna reduce the rate. And you'll see eventually it'll start dropping down like it is now. See how it's dropping down? So at the top of the range, I want it to be like in the, let's just say 60, okay? So 30%. So now when I turn this knob all the way to base, we're at 0. Now when I turn it all the way up, we're at 60. And where do we fly? We're flying somewhere in the middle.
Right about the middle.
So that's about the same. So now let's listen. A lot more, a lot less. But the neutral setting is where we want to start, okay? Does that make sense to you guys? So basically what we want is we want the neutral expected setting to be what we're gonna fly from. So that's the true way to, you know, after you get your Maiden done, you make your adjustments, you set it, and then like a year later when you come back to the plane, or 6 weeks or two days or whatever it is, you won't forget. So now let's look at the other setting. There's also the downward setting. So my guess is we can save that, go back, we'll go to the other setting, which we have to flip the switch to that setting to see it. And instead of -100, let's go back to where we were. Okay, so this should be about the same right here versus the full range. The full spectrum brings you to -150 all the way down to 0, which is the center of the rudder channel, okay? So just listen with me, nothing. That's about where we wanna be. Not this, that's too much, okay? So we're gonna basically do the same thing. We'll take that -100 and we'll make it, highlight it, we'll make it -30. And then if we turn that knob all the way up, we should see this get to about -62. Whoops. There you go, -60. -60, and then the middle range will be about 30-ish, and then we'll be at 0. So you see that? 0, about 30, about 60, okay? So the output will be the same. That's what we're gonna fly in, that's the minimum. That's where we're gonna be flying. Okay, cool. So now we've got both settings set, and we're good to go. So the reason we show you that is so that you can understand how we did it. I wanna just also take a second and say, if you watch this video in order, we understand that sometimes there can be a little bit of confusion just because we're showing you what we already know now at the end of the flight. But now you're gonna watch how we did it at the beginning. So we understand that could cause some confusion, and we apologize for that. That's the beauty of the scroll bar. You can scroll right back to this point after you've watched the Unbox build and radio setup, and you can see exactly what we did. If you're new enough to need help in those steps, or you're maybe not privy to the programmable transmitters or the computerized transmitters, then what you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to get good at jumping around a little bit in the videos. So our apologies. Take note of the time in the bottom of the corner of your screen, and you can see what time it is, and you can write it down in a text file and then just go right back to it. So, that being said, cool plane, couple of different new tools in your toolbox. If you're new to flying radio controlled airplanes, we really like to help you here at Brian Phillips RC. Obviously the camera crew is best in the industry of trying to keep these insane things that are going really fast right through the sun, burning balls of fire, leaving blue marks on the back of your retina. So thank you for that. This plane is pretty cool, and these things are fun. I'm not a big FPV guy, you may have noticed. We can't legally share the FPV footage, so we don't go out of our way to take it. So that being said, also this could have been avoided if I would have got lucky, but to be perfectly frank, I think that was a factor of just hitting snow in just the right way. So if you're concerned about the leading edge of your wings, you could put tape over them. I don't recommend it because I think it's a little bit overkill. Plus, this stuff is so slick. Nothing's gonna stay. We were lucky to keep this Eachine, and then that one's gone.
Yep.
We kept this one, but there was a number of other decals that were gone before we even got done with our unbox.
Are the little nose decals gone too?
Yep,
So we've got 3 out of about 10.
So anyway, guys, we really appreciate you watching. Obviously, if you stay tuned, you can watch our Unbox build and radio setup in its entirety, which is coming next. Thanks for watching us. Thanks for supporting us. Another beautiful year. of radio-controlled lifestyle here on Brian Phillips RC. We're gonna help teach you as much as we can. And if you're coming back to the hobby or you're new to the hobby, you're in the right place. If you are an experienced hobbyist and you wanna watch our long videos, we appreciate you too. You can play us in the background while you're building your planes in your shop or whatever it is you do to trip your trigger. But we really appreciate you guys being here with us. Thanks for giving us another good year. Stay tuned, so much more to come. YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. Look at this, we got a box, we're gonna open it. It's a miracle. I feel like it's been 6 months since I did a video. It hasn't been 6 months, it's been like 7 days. Or
Which
more.
in our world is like 6 months.
Has it been more than? Yes, it's been more. No, we did a video the other day. We did a video, but it was not a video like this.
No, it was not.
So if you're just joining us, welcome to Brian Phillips RC. We'll review RC airplanes, predominantly fixed wing, some helicopters, drones, also some farm gear, headphones, all sorts of crazy random things. But today we're doing an airplane. Look at this. Banggood's really stepping up their game. This came in a box. That is incredible. Okay, so this is Zod, and I don't know what this one's called, but it is the Zod Mobula.
Sure.
Okay, there's a carbon fiber rod. There's some 4 props. Goodness gracious, why do I need 4 props? They must think I'm a bad pilot or something. Then some wood. There's a strap. Eachine. What? Are they confused? This is a really nice strap, actually.
Secret's out.
Secret's out. They're all made in Shenzhen, China. Okay, Eachine. So this isn't Zod. This is Eachine. The Eachine.
Oh, it is Eachine.
Eachine. Quick, edit that out.
We don't do that.
Okay, so in case you guys are wondering, we review stuff for all sorts of different companies, and if you're new to the channel, you may not be aware. Ooh, it's so slick. Feel this. It's like so slick. I can barely. You know, it's like it just, you know, it just works. Just wherever you want to put it. Ah, I've seen these before. These are the kind that come as an ARF Plus. My camera crew loves them. Oh yeah. So you get to solder it all together. Okay, that's good. Oh yeah, that won't take forever at all, except for it probably will. See this? So if you're looking for a good winter project, this would be it, okay? So this is Eachine, and this is their experiment into ARF Plus.
Maybe they should stick with ready to fly.
Yeah, I think so too. So a lot of you guys are probably, you know, you might be okay with this sort of configuration, but at this stage of our lives, I don't want to put a plane like this together. That may not be true for everybody, but in my experience, putting planes like this together is usually going to be reserved for people that are doing a lot of FPV gear. And the reason it's nice to be able to put it together is if you think that the quality of the equipment you're getting is bad. However, in my experience with the Zod branding, and in this case, Eachine, evidently, they are really good quality components, and you just have to assemble it all. And I am telling you right now, this is a Zod product. It just is packaged by Eachine, because I've done enough Zod products to tell you. And they make some good stuff. So I really don't care what they print on the package, but the thing is, we'll put links in the video description below so that you can buy this thing. Eachine makes good stuff too, so I really don't care what brand it is as long as the stuff that they make is good. And it is homemade in Shenzhen, China, so who cares? I really don't care. It's probably like in the same building, on the same floor, in an office next to the other office, or actually it's made in the same office probably, and they just have a different manager that comes in and says, you need to do better work. Stop screwing up, people. I was gonna say something else, but I didn't. For fear for my future relationships. Okay, I don't know why this is here though. That's a little bit strange.
What is it?
It's like you have to break that off, I think, to stick them in here.
Oh,
see?
Don't. What?
Huh?
Are you sure?
Yeah, pretty sure. I'll wait.
Okay.
I'll wait. So yeah, so the packaging, yeah, see, this is just, it's molded in a strange way. So these are different plugs. You can actually fly this with or without the vertical stabilizers.
Oh.
See, like that. That's pretty cool.
That's interesting.
It is very interesting and strange. So as you guys know from watching the channel, I don't do a lot of FPV. It also comes with some magnets and a bunch of screws, standoffs and whatnot. What's a servos? 9-gram digital servos. Look like they're plastic gear. 200mm lengths on the servo plugs. And then some different trays and wood pieces that will help you to achieve different mounting positions like this. So that's pretty cool. I don't really quite understand why they would give us a choice with or without the wings. That seems a little bit strange to me. But I suppose, you know, to all their own when it comes to radio controlled aircraft and a variety of other factors. So that's gonna go in there. That looks pretty cool. Good venting here. This is where a camera would go. In my case, I'm not gonna be using a camera, so I'm gonna get this one. Here, let's see how hard it is to cut. I'm gonna make sure I don't cut my fingers. You could use an X-Acto knife and it'd probably work better. I'm gonna be gluing it shut though. Man, it's so slick. Oh, okay, so that slips in there. Perfect fit. Yeah, I don't even really need to glue it actually. So I like this. This will be a good for belly landing, but it is so dang slick. I can barely hang on to the thing. The mold release is, you know, it's almost like, it's surprising how much is on there. Okay, so in order to put this together, of course, you're gonna have the wing spar in there, just like this. That's gonna shoot through something like this. And of course, you're gonna have to get some servos mounted, and then you're gonna glue it like this, or possibly tape it or whatever. I am sort of inclined to just get the thing assembled so I can see what it looks like. It looks pretty sweet, actually. I'm happy with that. There's some more plugs back here. Looks like there's basically a place to put a motor here on a motor mount, and then here's another spot for a camera or a battery or something. I'm not sure. I guess it depends on how you configure your plane.
Did it come with a battery?
No, it didn't come with a battery. That's pretty typical. Okay, so here's a motor mount. It looks like it's got a small little tray that's gonna go potentially over here, something like that. So that's pretty cool. And I'm not sure what this is yet, but I think it might go inside. There is a manual, but I just kind of like to figure this stuff out like a puzzle. It's just, to me, it's more fun. And yep, sorry camera crew, you lose. I was right once.
We'll
see. I was right. And by the way, this is cool because they have an antenna hole, so you can put that in there, which I doubt this is gonna fly, but I'm just curious if it'll go. You ready? Wow, that's actually balanced out somewhat decently already. Now, obviously, it's not gonna glide real great yet because it's not super nose heavy, but I'm just surprised. Yeah, so, I mean, surprisingly good for having no electronics or anything in it. Okay, so the user's manual is gonna show you how to actually assemble this, maybe, but I doubt it. So let's look. This is the Mobula. Installation. Glue the upper and lower halves. I didn't have to do that. Put in those vertical things. Okay. Glue the upper plate in the fuselage. Glue that thing. Yeah, so some of these pieces get glued in like that, okay? Pretty simple stuff. So you glue this bottom piece and then you make an accessible spot for where the ESC goes. So that's pretty sweet. And then up here, there's some wood pieces that get glued in here as well. So it looks like you must put that plate in first, and then what does this one go in? I can't tell, can you tell? Looks like this goes in maybe. Don't really understand that at all. What does that even do? Glue the upper plate in the fuselage and then glue the ESC and mount. Okay, fine. Yep, V-tails. That's cool. Now these aren't rudders or anything, they're just stabilizers. And if you don't want the V-tails, you can just leave them out, it looks like. The G is supposedly the blocker for the V-tail. So like if you didn't like the way this looks, you could just leave that out, which is kind of cool actually.
It's kind of strange though.
What? It looks exactly like the Optera, except small.
Yeah, that's true.
2004 is the recommended motor. So let's take a look at that. So these little planes are fun to put together if you've got the time. So if you don't have the time, I'll let you do the math on that part. If you do have the time though, it is fun to put these together. Look at that, that is a really nice motor. That says 2004 by Adam RC, Eachine 2700 kV. That's cool. So it's actually a 2004, so it's 20 millimeters by 4 millimeters. And then that's the kV, which is not kilovolts, the 27,000 thousand rotations per volt. Okay, so that's pretty cool. What does this run on? 4S, 850 milliamp hour. Are you kidding me? 4S? That'd be insanity.
No kidding.
Okay. And so they talk about the different components that are supposed to come in it. Looks pretty straightforward. Okay. And then they talk about VTX wiring if you're doing basically an FPV setup, which I'm not. Simple stuff. Okay, so there is a place over here too to receive your magnets. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so the next step we gotta do is we gotta get some China glue or CA and get this thing glued together, get the servos installed, and then we need to, of course, get this thing soldered. Well, let's take a look in this package at least first, see what we're dealing with. We've done these before. They're not real hard to put together. You do have to have some soldering skills. Okay, it comes with some decent quality silicone leads. They're not the same length, which is a little bit weird. Then we've got the electronic speed controller here. Okay. That's so dinky. Okay. So there's your signal. Looks like feedback. Signal, ground, 5 volts. Signal, ground, 5 volts. Huh, weird. And then this, of course, is your servo lead, which is going to go out to your receiver. Good high quality silicone leads. I believe this is going to go out to the motor. And then one of these is going to go, signal is going to go here. Ground is going to go here. And then 5 volts is going to go here. So G for ground or G for ground. 5 volts is here. And then signal is here. Then we're going to have a red and black. Okay, so red's going to go to the positive side here. Black is going to go to the positive or to the negative side here. And then you're going to mesh it up with the XT30. I'm not sure if I'm going to use an XT30 because I don't even know if I have an XT30 in that size for the battery. But then that's going to go right here. It says plus. Red's going to go to plus. And the other half of your black is, of course, going to go to negative. So we'll show you that process. Shouldn't be too big a deal to get that all soldered together. Like I said, for me, the main factor is that I don't have time to put things like this together. So that's a little bit disappointing from my perspective, but you guys are probably gonna enjoy the build, and that's just gonna be part of the fun of putting these things together is, of course, building it. So in my case, I've got less interest in the assembly than I would have years ago, but it does look like a really nice piece of quality equipment. So this, of course, is gonna get glued, then this will be removable. So that's really nice. ESC is gonna drop in here. 3 leads and the motor, of course, are gonna be mounted. How do we mount the motor? Let's check that out next. Servos too, we gotta get to that at some point. Doesn't look like the servos. Will you hand me the props too? Because I'm curious how that's gonna work. Oh, okay, so they have 2 screw holes And these are an entire prop set. So depending on if you're using a pusher prop, the shaft slides on there. And then this is gonna spin in a pusher configuration like that. And there's 2 screws that are gonna line up just like that. See how there's 2 screws that are gonna go into the motor, into the bell housing. So of course the bell housing is the part that spins on the outside. Okay. So that's gonna be pretty straightforward. And then it looks like this is the motor mount, because you can tell from the X pattern there. So we're gonna mount that there with some screws. I have to run screws in from behind. And then however many of these are necessary to actually block that out. And then that's gonna fit right here. And it looks like probably just 1, but maybe 2. Not 100% sure on that. Looks like if we do 2 like this, they gave us more than that. Then we'll be able to pass the screws in there. And then this thing is gonna basically glue into that frame, and then the wires jump down. So we should be good. So I would say this will be a pretty easy build, but it's just gonna take a little bit of time and effort to put together. And then I feel like I'm missing something up here with this, because it's not 100% clear in the drawing as to how all this goes together. Oh, this actually has to go in here, folks. That's one thing I screwed up on. So let's just go ahead and show you that. If you pull the wings apart, there's also this right here that goes in like that, okay?
Oh.
So that's gonna give you some structural strength, and just make sure that you get that so that your wing spar passes through appropriately. See that? And then this is going to also go in and down here possibly. I haven't figured that out exactly yet, but I'm looking at it close and studying it. Not 100% sure. That might be a camera mount or something. Or actually, you know what it is? That goes on top. That's a flight controller mount. See? That's gonna drop right there now that we have the wood in place.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. So basically all I'm doing is just laying out all the pieces to make sure I have a place in mind for each and everything that needs to get mounted, so that I know there's gonna be, it actually just came with 4 of the same props, so that's good. So we've got some spare props, which is nice. I guess they're assuming we're gonna break the props when we have belly landings. I don't really think it's gonna melt or screw up. This is just various different nose styles. So if you want just a single hole there, or if you want to have this little bump down hole. So we aren't going to need those in our application. Of course, the magnets and everything we already talked about real briefly. So at this point, we're to the point now where we have pretty much identified all the different components, with the exception of, we got some linkages here. Those should be pretty straightforward, that go to the servos. And what have we not identified? We haven't identified this yet, right? See, that's an alternative to this, I think. See, that could go in there, or this could go in there. See, I feel like either one would work.
Is that where the ESC is mounting?
No, the ESC is mounting in the back. Well, I suppose you could put the ESC there, you know, but I mean, why would they give us a nice little opening for that?
Right.
I mean, it's such a small thing.
Where's your
That would work there.
going?
So I'm just unsure about this here. This is the motor mount, definitely. But then, do you double this up? And then do you double it up such that you've also got that there? And then this is here, or does this go like that? And then this whole big huge thing could go together, but then look how deep that's gonna be. See, I don't think that's the way they intended us to have it, because it sticks out like that and it's ugly. So I think that's gonna actually be just one or the other. I think it's for if you're using a different type of motor mount. So I don't think we need those. So yeah, so we gotta glue this, then screw that. Then we got all this hardware.
That little
I don't know. I was looking at that too, thinking I haven't identified this one. I don't see it in the manual anywhere. And I don't think we need it. Oh, you know what that does? That goes on the front. That goes on the front of the lid. There's a spot for that. up here, but I don't see where it goes. I think it goes here. See, look on the manual, come around. See this?
Oh.
There's there is definitely a spot on the top half.
Glue the release hock and magnet on the fuselage cover.
Yeah, but I don't see the release hock. Where does the release hock go?
I don't know.
I think it would go up in here somewhere. But I personally, I don't understand where that would go. See, there's a spot, it could go up here, see? But I don't see that really doing anything in our application. Because they show it here in this thing. So I don't know if that's necessary for us. I think that would work if you had a camera. And we don't need it. Because this just has a notch.
A little tab thing.
Yeah. Because that's going to go in like this and then drop down into the magnet. Magnet will hold it. Okay, so the next step is going to be some glue. Now that we've identified all the parts, I suppose we never actually opened the servos, so let's open the servos.
Oh, okay.
The servos technically need to be opened at some point anyway, so we might as well, we're kind of opening everything right now. Okay, so servo, digital servo, I don't know what direction it's going to go, so I'm inclined to not mount it into the wing yet. But let's suppose we were going to just kind of give them in there, we can just get them in there dry fit style. Okay, so there's one of them, just going to slip in there like this. The wire's going to chase down. Be careful you don't rip off your wire. Okay, just kind of give that a nice little tug, get that down into the hole. Okay, then we're ready to go in. I don't know which direction this is going to move, so I don't want to have this installed. These are just the control arms. So they come with 2 short screws and 2 long screws. The short screws are going to, of course, hold these control arms on. So we'll get to that here in a little bit. And I'm assuming the label is going to go down, but I could be mistaken on that. Yeah, looks like the label can go down or the label can go up on both. I'm going to go ahead and do label down just so we can all see what they are. If I was trying to make this super pretty, I suppose I would probably be inclined to maybe put the labels inside, but then I get better adhesion because the glue will be on the underside. See, just working it until that thing's down in there. Okay. Yes, it would make better sense to put these on now, then feed it through. There's your CG mark, by the way. Okay, cool. So we're at the point now where we need to go ahead and get this thing glued together so we can build it. Okay, so ordinarily when I glue stuff together, lately I've been using this foam to foam, which is what I would call China glue. We have links to this in the video description below. It says like under HH stuff or something like that. But it's a Horizon product. Well, it's sold by Horizon. And so we recommend it. This is mucilage. This is the Hobby King product. I haven't been using this for a while because I've had such good success with this that I kind of sort of just got away from it. Also, we don't really work with Hobby King because it's, I don't know. We just had years of mixed results. By the way, full disclosure, what am I going to use for batteries? I have some Eachine 700 milliamp 3S packs. Now that is smaller and also not 4S. Could be a problem. We'll find out. Anyway, so the way I charge these things, because I do not have any XT30 female plugs or male plugs or whatever you want to call them, I use bolt connectors to charge, which is lame. And yes, I know it's kind of crazy. Can't believe Brian Phillips RC doesn't even have an XT60 or an XT30 plug. This one looks like it's a little bit more charged. But the thing is, that's the reality. So this is the battery we're going to use in this. There's nothing magical about this particular battery, but I just figured it's closer to what they recommend than the next size up, which I do have an 850 milliamp 3S, but then I'd be using an IC. I'd be using an IC2, which is even harder to come by. And so I said, whatever, I'm just gonna go with the XT30. So XT30 meaning like 30 amp rating. Okay, got the soldering stuff set up, pretty much ready to rock and roll. So we talked about mucilage. Why are we using mucilage today? The reason we're using mucilage today is because we're out of the foam to foam or almost out of the foam to foam. And I figure I'm gonna run out halfway through. So this is why I've sort of gotten away from mucilage. We talk about this a lot. China glue is an important part of doing this hobby. If you don't have China glue, you're gonna have struggles. Look, this is what happens to China glue. See, there's a bubble there. And I'm strong, guys. I broke these tubes. I've actually broke them opened. Clear foam glue, medium cure. I received this probably on or about 6/28. Oh man, that little rip in there. I don't know if that's a rip in the case. That'd be bad. 6/20/28 of 2020. So it's been sitting around unopened. So they come unopened, okay? Except this one happens to be open. So my guess is it's also going to be in pretty rough shape. Nope, it's coming out okay. So that's the lesson learned, is that foam to foam costs more and you get less of it. It's thinner and it doesn't set up quite as quick. Okay, so there are advantages to both. This is only, how big is 50 milliliters. This is 100 milliliters, so twice as much. It's gonna cost you half as much, but if you're buying this with a plane, you're gonna be able to get shipping for free with your plane. Whereas if you're buying this alone, you're gonna wanna buy like 6 of them. The problem is they dry out, so be warned, okay?
And the foam to foam, you've literally used every bit that's in there.
Yeah, I mean, like to the point where I could squeeze it out maybe a little bit more, and I probably will. So the reason we're doing this now is because I wanna glue stuff together so it can be setting up. Okay, so you see how that does come out. It's not anything too terrible, but it's also not overly runny. Now, mucilage is never really that runny to begin with. And yes, I'm putting that on the sides. Why are you putting it on the sides, Brian? You're gonna stick that in, it's gonna get everywhere. True, because I'm gonna take this Q-tip and I'm gonna try to spread it. You see how it spreads and sometimes it doesn't quite stick? That's one of the drawbacks to mucilage over foam to foam, is that foam to foam will liquid, it will be more of a liquid, okay? This turns almost already to a booger, okay? The booger is what you ultimately want because it is a contact adhesive, okay? So you don't have to let that really cook at all, but that would be ideal is if you could let it cook, right? Meaning off gas, okay? See how it's coming out in a big ball, okay? So just get a little bit of glue in there. You kind of gotta overdo it a little bit with contact adhesive. There is a certain amount of thickness to the product when you lay it in there, okay? So just be aware. So it's better if you go a little crazy, you're gonna go crazy inside the hole instead of crazy on the thing you're sticking in the hole, okay? Yes, I know, I heard it. So spread that around, make it all exciting, fill it and touch all the surfaces as much as you can, and you will get plenty good adhesion, even though this thing feels like it's covered in oil, because it is covered in oil. That's a mold release product, okay? That mold release is used in the process of making these blow mold injected, well, not blow mold injected, that's not right, that's like plastic, but this is different, this is foam. Okay, so now watch this. This thing's already tacky, okay? It's tacky. It would fall if I kept doing that. You see how it's tacky? Like a booger, okay? That'll booger up and come off of your finger. It's gone, okay? So the reason I show you that is because the way that this stuff works is it's a contact cement. So if you see how it's almost hard to press this in there, but I can, and it's not like I'm not strong enough to do it, okay? So those of you who think you need to wait 24 hours, you are wrong. Look, you don't. This will set up over time. The problem is if it's too wet, if it's too fresh, like you just ordered this tube last week and you got it, and it was like January, and we're in January of 2022. You'd open this, it would come out really smooth, like creamy, I would say like toothpaste. And it does look like toothpaste, so don't let your kids get a hold of that. This stuff will come out more like thin toothpaste, like if you took toothpaste and put it in the microwave. This is an aluminized tube, don't put that in the microwave. If this gets hard and you can't get it out, you can take a large cup of water, heat it up in the microwave so that it's boiling, stick this in the boiling water and it will come out and you can use it and it will work, okay? So anyway, we got glue over here, same thing. These are the types of things that people don't talk about on RC hobby channels. Well, some people do. I mean, obviously I learned it somewhere. I learned it from experience and from listening to other people. No, I'm not scraping off the paint because that's not painted. That is actually black foam. That's one of the reasons why this is good quality stuff, because the black foam doesn't have paint that prevents it from sticking and adhering to each other. Now you're like, geez, Brian, that was a lot of glue. I got 100 milliliters. It's going to dry out anyway. I might as well use it. Okay, that's my thinking. That's my rationale. See how that's not spreading worth a darn? That is normal amongst mucilage. But also, the thing I really liked about mucilage back when I was using it almost exclusively, and partly because of the partnerships we have with these different companies, not because they're, you know, giving us commission on sales. I don't care about that part. What I care about is ease of getting it and then the quality of use. Because like glue is not something you buy every single day. Even if you build a lot of models, we build a lot of models, we don't burn through glue that fast. Okay, so you see how it's pooping out on the sides? See that? Let it dry. Don't freak out. Let it dry. See how slick that thing is? It's just nuts. So let that stuff dry. And when I say dry, if you're not pushed all the way in, just double check it. Make sure it's not gonna pop back out, okay? You could fly this thing right now, but I'm not going to because it's, you know, it's gonna be dark by the time we're done with this. So if you don't let it dry, what you can do is you can go up and down the length of it and you can walk it off of there. See what I'm doing? And that'll pull out whatever's out already. Now, why would you just let it dry? Because if you let it dry, you can just grab it with needle nose and pull it off. And it'll rip right off of there and you'll never even know it was there. Now, this is not painted, but if it was painted, there's a risk of touching the painted surface and actually pulling the finish off. So just be aware of that, okay? So the assembly of these models, now this whole seam pooped out. Do you see that? Mm-hmm. Can you go over my right shoulder maybe? Because then they're seeing it from the same vantage. I just flipped my Q-tip, full disclosure. See how it's all staticky, so it's making the fibers stand up there? Isn't that funny? Okay, now, the other thing you can do is you can use kicker for CA. And CA kicker, also known as accelerator, will actually break this stuff down. So let's say you glued that and you realized, oh my goodness, I need to get a wire out from under it, which I don't know why you would on this, there's no wire under there. But on some models, you run into that. If you take your kicker lid off and the little spray sucker, and you put it along that seam, and you put a little heavy bead on there, start working it, this thing will come right out, but you're gonna kill your glue. Clean the glue out, wipe it, dry it, clean it, wipe it with alcohol, re-glue it when you're ready. Put it back together. It'll work perfect, okay? Magnet time. The reason we're doing all this now is because when we're done with this, we're gonna do our soldering, and then everything's gonna be dry by the time we need to do it. But Brian, you just swung this thing around and said, yeah, I know, but I still wanna give it a chance to set up if I can, okay? I'm just gonna basically, I don't even know if I wanna leave that in there because it's not doing anything for me. What do you think? So you see this?
Unless you mount the receiver to it.
That's where our hole is. We are meshed up with that. We're lined up properly, okay? So I need to get that glued in there. I guess I can probably put the cap back on here. Oh, I was gonna mark this opened. So it says receive 6/28/2020, okay? So watch this. Opened. One, what is this like, 8/22. So now we know. So then when that wipes off, you won't even know any better. In 30 seconds. Okay, so I'm gonna try to get this stuff out of here. It's not gonna come out of here because this thing slipped. Once that thing slips back into position, you could actually glue this all together, or you can glue it to the structure, which is what I'm gonna do, okay? So I'm just gonna go in here, try not to make a big thing of it, but I am gonna get quite a bit of material in here because this glue will actually hold all this down. It would be nice to have that Velcro strap through there, but I have no clue where we're gonna need it. You know what I'm saying, camera crew? Mm-hmm. Because I think the Velcro strap is supposed to go somewhere in here. See, I'm just covering the surface and just squeezing as I go, okay? Not exactly rocket science. We're gluing something to another thing.
So do you have a plan for that strap, or we're gonna deal with that later?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not sure actually. But truthfully, where is that strap? Oh, here it is. It's almost like this would need to be up a little bit higher anyway. Mm-hmm. So I guess I'm not super duper worried about it because maybe on this application, we'll just do
the shelf liner trick?
Something like that. I don't know which one to put that in anyway.
I know.
I think it's gonna have to be all the way forward because we're putting in a small battery. So let's just do that.
But it's gonna get glued now.
I know.
Okay.
That's just life in the big city, I guess.
Okay.
Oh, there's a strap relief. See, there's a relief there. That answers our question.
Oh.
Okay, so I'm just gonna be nice to myself, my future Brian, and I'm just gonna take the glue off of this one spot. See what I'm doing? Just walking back and forth. That's making a huge mess, isn't it, Brian? Yeah, of course. I already made the mess by putting the glue on there. See, watch what happens. See the cotton comes off? Don't worry, all you gotta do is twist a little bit more and it'll come right off. Okay. So we're just gonna pull that glue. You see how easy it is to get that stuff off? Kind of a pain, but it does definitely come off of there, and it comes off of there clean. You see that? It's coming completely off. And then as you spin, every once in a while you can flip to the other side, and then your glue won't stick to the palm of your hand when you bump it, okay? So all I'm doing is just peeling this out of here. And it doesn't look like I'm making progress, just give it time. It will come out of there. I'm gonna go to a clean one now. Q-tips are the best thing to have around when you're doing this because they're disposable, easy, and really, really cheap. And also if you need to clean your ears or other body orifices, you can do that while you're building your models. So sometimes that's convenient.
That's awkward.
Really? Is it that unusual?
You're not supposed to put those in your ears.
Whatever. That is the biggest BS I've ever heard. It's like, I disagree. I disagree. Stick them all the way in your ear. Whoops. Got to slide this back because there's those little receivers for the magnets. Okay, so we'll just pop that down in there. Now, yeah, you're right. I didn't apply contact adhesive to both sides, but that's going to be good for what we're doing, okay? That's pretty simple stuff. Then, of course, we got our battery tray in here. That's going to probably get a little bit of tacky on the bottom, and that's fine. That's just the way it is. Did I do this backward? Oh, I totally did it backward. Now it's time to pull it out. See how all that tack comes up like that?
Now you have tacky on both sides.
Tacky on both sides. So I did this backward. So we're gonna just undo this and put it in the other way. So pay attention to which direction you do that. And what I would say the easiest way to do it would be to probably just strap it to itself. Did I didn't do it wrong.
You did.
I did?
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's right now.
It is?
Yep.
Are you certain?
Yes.
Gosh, I hope our battery's big enough to actually get to where the Velcro's gonna work. Because look at that, that's gonna be pretty huge.
I don't know.
If it doesn't work, I can always just pull it out, it's fine. Okay, so now that's in there and we can continue onward with our assembly. So what's next? Let's glue these things in. Again, kind of the same scenario, just get a little contact adhesive on there. You could use CA if you want, if you're into that sort of thing. I don't really think it's that critical on this application because that's all it's doing. It's just basically holding it in place. Okay, same thing with this, just make sure you figure out what direction it's gonna go. I'm looking in where the carbon fiber spar is gonna go, and that's how I know. So guys, if you like the content here on Brian Phillips RC, we obviously appreciate you watching, but if you wanna really help support us, buy the planes you see us review. Down in the video description, we're gonna have a link where you can buy it. When you buy from those links, we get small commissions from the manufacturers. Your prices stay the same, which is really nice. Looks like this actually is backward. Yep, I did that backward, folks. You know why I know that? Look at our cat. Okay.
Just trying to drink your water.
We always make me a glass of water because I talk a lot. Weird, I know.
Oh, the little notches go up.
Yeah, the notches go up. Okay. So you see, man, that one's really, really tough to get in there. Ooh, goodness gracious. There it goes. Okay, see how the notches go up and then they align with the foam? Sorry guys, I missed that in the first step. Okay, so now I guess honestly, this would help keep those apart. If we were gonna do that, it just doesn't really hurt anything, does it? Give us something else to tie on to. Why don't we just glue it in there? And if it gives us problems, we'll just take it out.
Okay.
Okay, so now this is probably a spot where CA might work a little bit better for this type of application. But again, I don't really care. And this is gonna be fine. It will work. Okay, CA would be cyanoacrylite. I'm probably saying that wrong. I almost never say the full word. But CA is super glue. Super glue can be activated with an accelerant that I call kicker and many people call kicker, and you could put a little bit of glue, spray some kicker on there, and it would just be like instantly set and very strong and sturdy. You'll note that I did not put this one in here. That was a choice. Okay, so now we've got that done. We got to get our magnets in here. trick of the day, okay? Separate all your screws from the magnet. Just like that, lay those back down. Then you're gonna take your magnets, you're gonna take them while stuck together like this, okay? We're gonna get a little bit of a glob of glue here and a little glob of glue here. And then we're gonna get a glob of glue here and a glob of glue here. Okay, so all 4 holes. We're gonna attempt to spin the Q-tip in here. Attempt to spin the Q-tip in here. We don't know if that's gonna work yet. We're gonna try this first. If it doesn't work, we're gonna re-glue. Okay, so there's glue spread in each of the holes. This is the trick of the day. Stick your magnet in while stuck together so that the polarity is correct when you put them into the plane. So this is gonna act like a pin while we're working on the rest of the structures. Okay, just like that. And it is kind of challenging to get those right if you don't do that, because you'll glue and you'll end up accidentally putting one of them backwards so that they are reverse polarity than they need to be. Okay, so we stick that in and just let it be. We won't open that up again for a few minutes. And you see what I'm talking about here? Earlier, I was talking about how I got too much glue in there. See, all you gotta do is just pull that out. Not a big deal, comes right out of there. So it just strings right out, okay? And then occasionally when you get these glued parts with mucilage or foam to foam, make sure they're not pulling apart, especially on these. That thing is so slick, holy cow. Okay, so the next step, we gotta glue this so that we can mount the thing in there. You know, the thing. I think one thing we might do on this video is we might take hot water and show you how to get that other mucilage to work. You're probably thinking that's a lot of glue right there. It kind of is, but part of the rationale behind a lot is I'm not actually applying it to both surfaces, which is what you're supposed to do. And when it's real runny, what you can do is you can apply it to both surfaces, but when it's thick like this, you can just apply it to the one surface because you don't really need to let it cook off. There's really no purpose of letting it cook off at this stage of the game. A little extra on this spot, so I'm just gonna peel that out right now. So now that needs to set up for just a minute or two so that we can cover it up in a few minutes when we're done doing our soldering. Okay, so this is gonna be available for that step. Same thing here, we're gonna have a motor. The motor is gonna be mounted on this. This would be CA'd together typically. I'm just gonna use China glue because I think it's gonna be fine. So where is the motor anyway? It's right here? Okay. So the motor is gonna be mounted here. The screws are gonna pass through from that side. And then the wires are gonna pass through into where the ESC is. So really, we can glue this together now, but we can't glue this in until we have the motor on there. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna just go ahead and mucilage this now. Same drill as before, but I don't wanna glue this onto the frame yet. Okay, now this one, because it's the motor, I'll be a little bit nicer, and I was just double checking there wasn't some alignment issues. Now this one, if you wanna see how this is supposed to work, glue both sides, let it sit for a few minutes, come back, stick them together. So we'll do that on this wing as an example, or on this motor mount as an example. China glue is some of the best glue you're ever gonna use, period. I'm gonna get some hate for that, but it's true.
Are you checking the?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm living dangerously. See this? Oh yeah, I just got it all over inside the hole. See that? I got it on the side, got it on the side. I didn't go here because it's not necessary. And yes, you're right, I could probably wait and do this later. It'd be probably more wise, but I just want to get her done. Get her done.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, pull this taut, walk it down in, leave it, okay? That's gonna probably poop out all over the place, and that's okay. Now, same thing here. I'm actually sticking my pinky in here and poking that servo up so I can be nicer to this one. See how I left the wire in there? Not gonna make a big difference, but just a couple of different methods for those of you who need some help along the way. If you're new to the hobby and you don't know anything about our channel, we've been doing this for thousands of videos, literally thousands of videos. And we ordinarily don't do a lot of the ARF Plus models or ARFs because they just take forever. They make for a long video, and a long video, I make a long video out of a plug and fly. I make a long video out of a bind and fly. But in this case, the reason we kind of stay away from it is just because like our long format videos don't work well with planes that take a long time to build, because then we end up with like a 4 or 5 hour long video and people think, oh my goodness, that's 5 hours. And I'm like, you know, listen, if you were just hanging out in the pokey, it'd be no problem. Don't do drugs, people.
Not like incentivizing that.
We're not trying to talk you into it. Okay, so those are glued, ready to rock and roll. So now we'll come back to this now that it's had a chance to sit. Now watch how insane this is, how strong this is, how fast this is, okay? Make sure your holes are lined up and blammo whammo. You're probably not gonna get that apart anytime soon. Look. See how sticky that is? So that's pretty good. So that's gonna work good, okay? So that's ready to receive the motor when we're ready to mount the motor. So we'll just leave this out of the way. Now what's next is the hard part for a lot of people. For me, it's not a big problem because I solder all the time. Soldering is not especially hard in my opinion. I have a 40 watt Weller soldering iron. It's nothing special. We had links to them, but like, who knows? It's just the easiest thing. Just follow the Amazon link, find what you like, buy it. Do not get a 30 watt iron. Do not get a gun style iron. Seriously, just get a pencil style. That's what you want for doing RC stuff. We obviously have some more stuff to do on top of the wings too, just linkages and the sort. We have an XBC battery checker hooked up to just whatever battery I grabbed. Happens to be a 1300 3S Smart Pack. Nothing special about that. We could technically use this if we had the right end on it, which we don't. So we'll just lay that here. So now our next part is building all the electronics. So if you're so lucky to have a wife that lets you solder on your kitchen counter, then you can solder on your kitchen counter. But this is where I warn you, if most people that do this would end up homeless. So I would recommend that you don't solder on your wife's kitchen counter, unless of course you run a mildly successful YouTube channel.
You're welcome.
Okay, so here's how this works.
I'm not sure where I'm ready to be.
On my right side, probably.
So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we got all the gluey crap out of the way, and now we got the soldering iron. You see how there's some lights on there? See how my tip is really dirty and gross and not very clean? That's all part of the show, folks. And then I've got all these stabby things here. That's so that I can stab myself with. And then I am gonna need to probably clean the tip, make it nice and shiny. So the first thing I need to do is solder my servo wire to the ESC, okay? Why that? Just because that's the first thing I picked up. Just get that crap out of the way. Now remember earlier we were talking about all the different spots. This is gonna be challenging. Camera crew's gonna try our best. There's one that says S, G, G, 5 volt, and current. G, S, current, 5 volt, G, okay? You can go on the top or the bottom. I'm gonna go on the bottom. Why the bottom? Because then I'll probably just put the main inlets over here on the opposite side, okay? Nothing magical about that, that's just what I chose to do. Okay, so get your flux. This is plumbing flux because I find it's a little easier to get these days. And I just get a little teeny bit of it. And I'm gonna just apply it to what I wanna solder to, which is gonna be G, 5 volt, there, and then what the heck, I'll just put it all on the same side for extra good measure. Okay, so flux. Yep, that's flux. That's flux. I use a rosin core solder, get leaded solder, get the kind that's deadly, the kind that you don't want to breathe the gas from, okay? That's the stuff that works, okay? All this ROHS compliance is stupidity. That's why everything breaks. Okay, see this? G. I'll put a little solder on there. Okay, see I got a little solder. I didn't heat it very much, so it's kind of a blob. See how it's a blob? It's not real great. Okay, see how it's a blob? It's not real great. I don't care. It's good enough, okay? I'm gonna turn this, thank you. That helps, sort of. G, okay, G for ground, right? We're just gonna lay this flat. I'm gonna touch that now that it's see how fast that goes? See how perfect that looks? This is signal. I'm gonna put that there. Brian, why do you do it so fast? Because I don't wanna melt this other crap. These little SMD chips, which stands for surface mount chips. They're gonna just basically fall off of there if you're not careful, okay? Yeah, but you didn't let that solder melt for 10 seconds. That's right, because I would have ruined it. So I'm just basically, why is that battery in the way? Here we go. See this? It's wanting to walk on me, so I'm just holding it with my ring finger and just getting up in here. Ooh, yeah, beautiful, okay? Ooh, look at all that deadly chemical gases. I was wondering why Brian was so weird. Now you know. Okay, so now we have 2 wires. One's red, one's black. Same length, okay? You remember earlier how I was telling you they were different lengths?
Yeah.
Evidently that was just in my head. So if you don't have a pair of strippers, you got to start somewhere. All right, so we're gonna take this, strip the tip, okay? We barely stripped it all. There's a little silicone wire that fell there. All right, so this is labeled on the silk screen. That's negative, that's positive. Take my word for it if you can't see it. I promise I'm not lying to you. Okay, so I'm gonna dip the tip in the flux. Look at me dipping the tip in the flux. That's juicy. Ooh, juicy. Okay, so now same thing, look how dirty that tip is. Stick it in, clean it off. That's still dirty. Stick it in, clean it off some more. That's stainless steel, like a dish cleaner without detergent, and this is like a brass one, it's garbage. It's like the cheapest crap I could get on Amazon. Good thing I'm not building a spaceship, right, Elon? Sorry, have you said your prayers to Elon today for our internet?
I have.
Oh, good. Whew, thank goodness, because we need it later. Okay, so minus, if you guys weren't already aware, we have Starlink and we love it. If you're watching Elon, thank you. Seriously.
Seriously, we are.
We're very, very happy with Starlink. I don't know how we lived without it. We barely did. If you're on a YouTube channel and you don't have good internet, and when I say good internet, you guys would probably think it's pretty garbagey. Ours was really garbagey before, okay? Minus is here, plus is here. How do you know that? Because I look at the silk screen. If you notice my hand moving around, that's normal. I don't have Parkinson's, I just like coffee. That's not supposed to be a poke against Parkinson's. Okay, see that? Steady when it needs to be. Shakes like an old man all the rest of the time.
Maybe you shouldn't drink coffee.
It's only one person's opinion, and they don't know me. See that? Beautiful. Okay, now we gotta do the other side. The other side is gonna be going to the motor. Now, Brian, how do you know which direction the motor goes? I don't know what direction the motor goes.
Oh, good.
I'm gonna take the prop off. I'm gonna lay it down for safety. Safety first. Okay, so we gotta get some flux and flux on here. Grab a little flux, put a little flux, put a little flux, put a little flux.
Sorry, I keep thinking you're done.
Why do you keep thinking that?
I don't know, 'cause I know.
Did you see an airplane fly? No?
Soldering is not my thing.
Whatever, I know it gets you all fired up.
Well, I'm not gonna do it.
Okay, so clean the tip. You just kind of got to ram it in there, get good penetration. Then we're just gonna stick this right on the edge and get that heat to transfer by putting a little solder between the tip. See all that flux? In a perfect world, you'd clean that up.
But you're not gonna do that, right?
Nope,
Okay.
absolutely not.
Just checking.
Mostly out of laziness and not caringness. Which is funny because, Brian, you're better than that. You should care about everything. I do, sort of. Oh, this is 30 amps. Exceed 30 amps. That's weird. Oh, or it's exceed the brand. Is that what the motor was?
No, I think it says Adam RC on the other side.
Okay. Whatever, it doesn't matter. It's probably copied anyway. Okay, now I don't know if this is gonna go the right way. You know how we're gonna tell? We're gonna test it. See how I'm holding that? Do you know why I'm doing that?
So it doesn't move?
because that one was fighting me. I don't want to get burned. That's extremely hot. Okay. All right, so hypothetically that's done.
I'm so glad we got to do that ourselves.
I know, thank God.
That really made my day.
It really did. I'm not done. I gotta build the connector. Sorry. All right, so then this is gonna need to be stripped. We're gonna have to feed a little heat shrink on there. By the way, if you guys forget to put your heat shrink on, all you have to do is just desolder it and try again. Isn't, what?
I think you're gonna say something actually helpful.
No,
Oh.
That's it. You pretty much, you're screwed. Desolder it, put it on again. And if you do it more than once, I feel for you, because I've done that too. Remember, don't overstrip this. The silicone stuff won't shrink back, but it is definitely better if you don't. See this? See how the tip slides all the way in and it starts compressing the lines? It ain't gonna go in that hole unless you get it really, 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 really neat. Okay, so my recommendation is to typically try to tin the leads. Like if this is an XT60, see how I'm rolling the wire? I don't know if you can see if that black one's blocking. I'm gonna try to roll until it goes in. See how it's starting to slide in? See how it's starting to slide in a little bit, but it's kind of fighting me? It's not gonna go in, okay? See how it unwound a little bit? So, not a big deal. It's really not a big deal at all. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this connector. This minus on the top, the flat side's the positive. See, that's got that little lock on there. Sometimes you can get lucky and you can kind of like lock it prematurely and it'll hold the thing like a grabber. See how I'm kind of bending it on purpose? That's just like a heat guard basically on the outside. I don't know if I can get lucky. Yeah. See, I'm just gonna hold it there for just a second because I'm only gonna do this for a second or two and then I'm gonna release that right away. My heat shrink's down here, I'm ready to go. I'm gonna clean the tip real good. I'm gonna get a nice penetration into the flux and then I'm gonna basically dip the tip. Dip the tip, get a little flux in there. You guys gotta be ready to dip the tip if you're doing this sort of thing. If you're not willing to dip the tip, just come back later. Okay? Then you're gonna take the solder, make sure that tip is nice and silvery looking. Heat it, put a little bit of solder in there, okay? We're gonna come back, grab the red. We're on the red side, remember, positive. I'm gonna hold this a ways back so I don't get burned. I'm not gonna burn underneath. Heat the connector, drop it in, let that flux do its work. Okay, see how it's still bubbling? Because it's still really, really hot, okay? Pull a little bit of solder off, brace things, come back in, top it off. Let that solder wick into the wire. It's extremely hot between my ring finger and middle finger. See, it popped out still because it's so hot still. That's why if I had an XT60, I'd plug it into another counterpart to help it dissipate the heat. Okay, so that's all the way around it and solid. And now it changes color a little bit, you can let go. Then I'm gonna flip this over, I'm gonna do the same thing. Yes, that's hard on the connector. It may displace into that position permanently, so you wanna kind of work relatively quick. Dip the tip, clean the tip, go to work. The solder helps make a bridge between the two components. Okay, you can also do it this way where you come in here, let that flux work itself, walk the solder in. Notice I have a piece of paper down here, which is an instruction manual. Getting real hot now, so I'm gonna move my hand back a little bit. See how it's nice and shiny? That's what you want. You gotta hold still until it's not shiny. See it? Changes color a little bit, gets a little bit more muted. Ah, I turned it right at the last second. I gotta do it again. Because that'll basically allow for a cold solder joint if you're not careful. And also you don't want these to have a big twist in them or they will make it sit funny in your airplane. Just let it sit for a second. See how it changed? Changed to like a dull muted kind of shine to it. It's still shiny, it's still clean. Okay, now get it out of this as soon as you can. See how it's kind of squished a little bit? That's fine. I'm gonna live with that for now. It's not a big deal. Not ideal to do that maybe, but. Now, if you want to make this actually hold up well and work properly for a long time, then what you would do is you would get that flux off of there, and you can take your wire and kind of brace it and pull some slack. See how I'm pulling slack? See what happened to it? It just slid up there. That's one way you can cover that up. But as it heats up, it's gonna relax, okay? So the reason I'm doing this, see what I'm doing? Kind of pulling that wire up so that the sheath pushes over the top. So that's a trick you can do. And by the way, this will relax. Once we plug it in to a connector, it's gonna be golden, okay? So then this is the heat shrink. So we'll run the heat shrink back all the way up. And we'll just heat that up here in a second. And same thing with the other end. I suppose we should probably unplug the soldering iron. And then always clean your tip before you put it away. See how it's nice and shiny. Make sure you smoke up your room really good. Mm-hmm.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I know. Looks like a 1980s bowling alley. Okay. So if you haven't already thought about this, don't feel bad. You do have to heat this up, but what I had thought about, it'd be nice. I do have a battery here. I would not recommend plugging it into your battery to dissipate heat while you're soldering, but you can technically take your battery at this point and plug it in and make sure you're gonna get purchase on there, okay? So you see how I was squishing it? You can hear it beep already. See, nothing's wrong now. So now I'm just gonna walk this in like that. And yes, this is energized. Hasn't caught on fire yet, but I'm gonna catch it on fire, sort of. Jeez.
That clicker is like excessive.
Okay. So, there you have it. Now, why did I plug that in for that? Just to make sure it was gonna go before I got too far ahead of myself. You can hear it beep, you can hear it make that noise. The customary Hextronics startup sequence. All right, cool. So now at this point, we're basically ready to see if this works. So there's a number of different ways you can see if your ESC is gonna work. One of which, and this is also important because our soldering iron is cooling down. So while it's cooling down, I wanna go ahead and get this quickly tested to see which direction it goes. So we're gonna turn on our XBC battery checker. We're going on the servo tester. I'm gonna go to 0. We're gonna power up the circuit while plugged into our output, which is our servo plug here. Make sure our terminal, our terminal is going in the right way. Okay, listening for beeps. I didn't hear any beeps, did you? Mm-mm. Okay, so probably would have been smarter to brace that appropriately. It obviously works. Okay, so the reason that happened, guys, and that wasn't really a screw up, it was just I accidentally bumped the cable, is that, and that's why you don't put the props on until you're ready. I just wanna make sure I didn't damage any cables when that jumped. Because if I cut a spot in the cable, I wanna address it right now. I think we're okay. Okay, so what happened? Why did that happen? Well, the pulse width modulation at 0 or minus 100% is 0 on this, then 0, then plus 100. On a normal throttle channel, you would have a throttle cut or you'd have some sort of protection at startup. Well, we don't have that protection in this environment. So that was just a mistake on my part. But either way, we know it's working. I just don't know what direction it's spinning. So in order to tell what direction it's spinning, I need to probably brace this so that I have better control over what's actually happening to it in a spatial area here like this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this thing we glued together. We'll just mount it. It's not like we have to mount it anyway. Okay, so let's take a look at what we've got for hardware here. So you have tons of different screws and things. We could actually build the airplane now if we wanted, but I'd rather go ahead and get this figured out first because the soldering iron's still out and in the way. So we've got some standoffs. Pretty sure that's not what we need right now. We've got some standoff nuts, some standoff washers. See these here are standoff nuts, washers. There's a washer, there's a nut. There's another little standoff washer. Okay, so these look like the type of screws that would go in to wood, but they are not the type of screws to go in to that particular piece. Standoff. Okay, so these are all, my only concern is I'm feeling like, I wonder if these nuts are actually supposed to be dropped into here in order to receive the long screws. So let's test my theory. See this? They are going in there. That's good. That is a metallic screw, but I think that's a plastic nut, which to me, this is gonna go in there. Yep, that's the way that goes. My apologies, folks. That was a misread on my part. So now we're gonna look at how deep that goes. See how deep that is? So we need the short screws for this. So we have a handful of longer ones and we have a handful of shorter ones. So let's see what we got of each. 1, 2, 3, 4. We have tons of short ones. Looks like these are Phillips. Wonder if those are the different ones. Can you tell? Those look like they might be plastic. Are they? Yeah, those are plastic. So they go here,
yeah,
here. See how they're plastic? You can tell because they don't stick to the magnet. Okay, then we're gonna look at the different lengths of these to see if we have different lengths to work with. And it looks like these are all the same. It's kind of hard to tell though.
They look like it.
It's hard to tell. No, there's some that are shorter, I think. These are shorter. These are like the next step down. Probably like 8 millimeters, and these ones are probably like 6. Let's see if they even reach. See, what I'm doing is I don't want those to get in here and touch the windings on motors. Okay. So that's gonna go in like that, and then we gotta get through this single piece of wood. That's about right, I would say, wouldn't you? I think we're gonna be good.
Reach?
Feels like the penetration's gonna be about right. You don't wanna over penetrate here because you will knock those wires off, those motor windings.
Oh.
Those motor windings, I mean, if you penetrate so deep that you rip out your motor windings, it's gonna be a problem. Yeah. So we need to get, I'm guessing that's yeah, why don't you grab a 1 millimeter while I fight these 4. I'm not ready to do anything too exciting. See, there's 4 of them. We're just gonna feed them through here. 1 millimeter, 1.3, there's 0.5, what the heck?
That's what I was trying to figure out.
Oh, yeah, it's 1.1, that's 0.5 millimeters. Is that a 0.5? Oh, 1.5. I was gonna say, that's surprisingly big for being such a small screw. Oh yeah, went in just fine, no problems. So now I'm just kind of trying to get the alignment on the first 2. As you can see, it's going right in, no problems. Isn't it just crazy the amount of strength that we're putting against a couple of screws?
Yeah.
And then we're gonna fly this thing at really fast, I'm guessing. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. It's no wonder people don't trust these trusty little things. Okay, so now I'm gonna very carefully listen. Oh, see, that's not gonna spin on the bottom. Whoops, duh. The bell housing is gonna spin on the outside. So even if you did over penetrate a little bit and touch the leads, you wouldn't necessarily be spinning and causing friction and breaking them off, you see? They don't spin. That makes sense. So here's one of those plastic nuts. So those are for standoffs for FPV gear or a flight controller. I'm just going in here, tightening down until I basically can't tighten anymore. And then I'm guessing those 2 big screws are designed to go through here. Mm. But then where do they receive on the actual model? Not sure. Okay, so.
Were we supposed to glue?
Oh, maybe I wasn't supposed to glue this to that. Maybe I was supposed to glue this to that and then screw this to the back. Whatever, it doesn't matter. It's all gonna get glued at some point. So let's try that. Oh, that's Phillips. Yeah, I bet that's what that is. We were probably supposed to screw that together so it was accessible. Because otherwise, like, we won't be able to take our motor off without ungluing it. Yeah, that's the way it was supposed to be.
Were you planning to take your motor
off? Excuse me, guys.
Okay.
No, I wasn't planning on taking my motor off. Which tube are we using? Is it that one?
It's the one you wrote. Is it still that one?
Opened. See, now that it's marked so clearly. Jeez, that's ridiculous. I'm gonna have to tape over it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so. Oh yeah, that's the one.
Yep.
Because it's still gluey. Okay, so we'll just glue it real thick. Now, because this is gonna have like all the strength of that motor on there, I'm gonna probably go ahead and actually get a little bit heavy on the glue just for good security. I don't want the motor to rip out and hang down and screw up my amazing flight performance tonight before the sun goes down. That was my goal.
Didn't do very good on it.
Whoa.
Timing.
Can you imagine how awkward that would have been if I had a big slob of sticky stuff on my pants? Bring back bad memories. See this? So you just stuff that in there. Okay, and done. Beautiful. Then we'll feed all these wires through to the front, right like that. And remember, our magnets are setting up in there in the glue. So I'm just gonna do this.
Your cats are being weird.
They were scared about something.
That's our cat that came back.
I think they know what you're talking about, camera crew.
Oh, I thought we talked about that.
Did you?
Maybe not.
We had a cat that left for a month and came back, went on vacation. Evidently the vacation wasn't very good because she came back. So this, you want to be very mindful about the pressure that you put on your little weakly soldered joints. Ordinarily you would cover that with some sort of like a heat shrink if you really cared, which I don't. And the other thing you can do is you can also zip tie this bundle so as to protect somewhat the integrity of the cables, and then you relieve the pressure in a linear way so that it doesn't put the pressure on the solder joint, okay? So in my case, I'm just gonna stuff it in there really roughly and never forget it, or never think about it again, sorry. Almost said that backward. Okay. And I'll probably have to yank those wires here in a few minutes too. So then this is gonna go on here, just like that. And that's gonna get tightened with 4 screws, correct? But see, that's where I'm a little bit confused. Does that, oh, it's just gonna bite into the phone or into the, I don't know if I need those other screws for anything, do I? Do you know?
I'm not sure.
I'm not either. So let's see if this goes. Oh yeah!
So those were like the longest ones?
I guess, I don't even know if that's the right way.
Well.
I'm just using the longer ones because it's the easier ones, I guess, in this event. And I'm just kind of forcing it. Okay? And I'm gonna push that lead down just a hair, like that. That's tough on it, so. So now here in a second, I'm gonna have to test the direction of the motor movement. Because otherwise I'll have to program the motor if it's going the wrong direction. You can see that's a metallic screw. You don't want to use the plastic ones on this. All right, there you go. Looks pretty cool. All right, so now would be the time when I would go ahead and lift this up. See, magnets worked, sort of. And just take that little extra bit of booger off of there. Now, once you get these things set in that spot like that, you can actually tape them too, and that's another good way of doing that. It'll help to keep things steady and where they need to belong. I'm gonna just pull the excess glue out. Then I'm gonna press that just a hair. Okay, so as you can see, we've got plenty of lead on these leads here. Can definitely reach all the way in to wherever we ultimately end up running stuff. You could have, like you said, you probably could have put that ESC in here if you wanted. But I don't really think there's any major advantage to that, by the way.
And then why have the hatch on the back? And then why would you need the little hatch thing on the back?
What, that or this?
That.
Oh yeah, right,
Bottom.
yeah, you wouldn't. That's a good point. Okay, so the battery's gonna be up front. And then we're gonna have our receiver somewhere in there. I don't know yet exactly where that's gonna end up, but I'm just gonna basically, I noticed a little bit more glue here. I'm gonna take and see if that'll stick. See, this stuff kind of becomes not sticky at all. It's kind of squishy, but it's not sticky. It doesn't stick to anything after a few minutes. Okay, so the next step, I think the next step for us is probably gonna be to verify the motor direction now that we have it in the machine. So this is just to run the controls. Okay. This is to actually energize the plane. Okay, now it doesn't know that it's plugged into an XBC battery checker. It just assumes it's plugged into a regular receiver. Okay, nothing comes out of that until you go into the menu. What the heck? You see that screen? That's kind of weird. Whoa, it's on. So I'm gonna unplug that. See, this is so strange. I've not seen that before. Have you?
Was that battery low?
Maybe, I don't know. I'm gonna go to this first. Okay, so now I'm gonna slide it up slowly this time. See, it's armed. Now it's armed, okay? And that's going that way, okay? You can change the step size on this too. Full speed, totally full speed, half speed, off. Okay, this is where I'm gonna be real careful not to bump it, okay? This is not gonna be screwed in, just so you guys all know. That doesn't stop it from causing potential for damage. So I'm just gonna go real slow. Yep, and that's going backward. And it's gonna shoot off, so watch your eyes. Okay, see how it idled? Now what I can tell you is that that thing spun the wrong way for this prop. Because it was spinning, well, wait, that isn't the wrong way, is it? Hold on, I gotta do this again. That's so strange. I thought I had it figured out. Because it should be going this way, right? Yeah, see, it's going backward.
Yeah.
It's blowing air at me.
Are the props all different?
That's the way that they're gonna be.
Okay.
I think they're all the same. We can double confirm that if you want. Just show them over there on the camera. So there's two ways to fix that. What?
Are they all, no?
Yeah, they're all, whoa.
Those two are different, aren't they?
No, they're all the same. They're all the same.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all the same.
Okay, I believe you.
Right? Are they the same?
No.
Are they the same?
Yes, they are.
They're the same.
They're the same.
There's 4 of the same props, guys. Just to be totally clear, because the camera crew is trying to confuse you. Also, I'm a little bit concerned now. All of a sudden, I just realized maybe those long screws are supposed to be here. Uh-oh, ruh-roh. Ruh-roh.
Well, that's okay, so we're gonna have to take them out of that
Wait,
little.
hold on. Was there another screw in the bag for like the ESC or something?
No. No,
There's screws there, but it goes to that.
for those.
Okay, so then let's verify this. So yes, we can use the shorter screws here, so that's what we're gonna have to do.
Okay.
See, process of elimination assembly is annoying and it should be reserved for companies like Dynam, okay? Just in case you guys were wondering. Yes, that does reach, and yes, that's probably it. Yep, it's going. Son of a biscuit lover. Okay, so the option 1 would be to just undo 2. In our case, we're gonna be undoing all of them. We're gonna get the soldering iron turned on, switch 2 of these leads, and we'll show you the process just because that's what we do here on Brian Phillips RC is we show you all the in-depth details of how to fix the things that you're probably gonna screw up just like we did. So now that we know that those 2 extra long screws are gonna go into our prop bag, right?
Oh, okay.
Okay. So we'll take those 2 screws that don't belong on the fuse. We'll know which ones to use. Process of elimination assembly, which has been perfected by no less than Dynam. We have built a lot of them, and almost every Dynam we have to go back and forth to get an assembly built.
Hey, at least they send glue.
Huh?
At least they send glue.
They do send glue. Okay, so in order to switch the direction of this the way it spins, we can do it one of 2 ways. One, we can either reprogram this ESC, which I don't know how to, I don't want to waste my time figuring out. Or 2, we can switch any 2 of these leads and it will switch and rotate the direction that that thing spins, okay? Doesn't matter which 2, any of the 2, just like an AC motor, for those of you that know AC motors. Okay, so the first step we have to do on this is get it in a position where we can actually do that. Right now it's kind of fighting us. So the best thing I can figure to do this would be to just kind of hold it steady. You obviously want that tip to be clean so that it transmits the heat better than it is if it's dirty. If it's dirty, it won't transmit heat well. If it doesn't transmit heat, it's not gonna work. Okay, so just kind of cleaning it off. It's gonna take a second to get warm enough to actually work. And this time we probably won't need to add a lot of solder, but we might add a little solder. And again, they're not marked, there's no colors. So it's getting hot enough to melt the flux, so see how it's starting to smoke. Since it doesn't matter which ones, I'm gonna literally just grab whatever's convenient to grab. Still heating up. Getting close, guys. If you can't clean the tip, it's probably not warm enough to work. Okay, now it's starting to smoke, which is good. Getting close, guys. See, that's just how. You're gonna have to move your hand. I cannot control. No, go over the island. There you go. See? So we'll just switch these 2. Because it's easy. Okay. And then I'll just bring this one over here while we're right there. Let that set for a second. It's very hot. Kind of hurts to do that. Because of course we want to get a strong solder connection that's not going to be superficial and break off mid-flight. Okay, so now we're gonna basically put this down. We should be able to reassemble, verify the direction of travel, and we'll be golden. So we'll let that set for just a second. So it's not super hot. See, there's no screw holes or anything, so I don't think we really gain anything by putting that into the other cavity.
Right.
Because then there's just more room for the receiver and everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll just kind of drop that down in there. Might be kind of nice to keep that off of the bottom. I don't know which way that's supposed to go, but I'm gonna do it like that. I'm not sure that there's really a right or wrong way. Some of these things are just kind of a guess and check until you realize you screwed it up. So basically the next step after we're done with this would be to put the wings in, so we'll do that next. We have to basically verify that we have this right by switching those two leads. I don't know why it would be wrong. I'm pretty confident it's gonna be right, but being pretty confident and being right are two different things, because sometimes I'm confident I'm right and I'm wrong. Let's say I have a high chance of being correct on this because I've done it a number of times. Never had an issue. But it's always better to know for sure. So here we go. So we'll get that in there. Yeah, those shorter ones are perfect. There's no reason why they wouldn't work. Okay, very good. All right, now we just need to be careful because that is now mounted securely. So it is dangerous all of a sudden. So if you wanted, you can test it upside down. Upside down is going to keep you from having that prop hit the table. Okay, so we've woke it up. We're going to plug in, make sure our signal is going the right way. Yep, negative is far away from me. So I plug in the servo connection. Now I'm going to energize the circuit. We're at 0%. Listen for the beeps. Keep your fingers away from there. It's working.
Yep.
Off. On. It's going to be full. And off.
Wow.
Yeah. That thing blows.
There's a lot of hair.
Blows. Okay, so that worked pretty good. 3S seems like it's going to be plenty of power. So I'm still not 100% sure why they're having people run 4S in this. It seems like 3S is going to be like more than enough power. So sometimes you just gotta vet it. Some of you FPV flyers really want a lot of power. Also, I was just gonna say this trailing edge has those little feathers from the mold. If I was you, and this was, if you're gonna really be doing some high performance flying, I'd maybe talk about maybe trying to get that trimmed off of there. Scissors might actually work better than an X-Acto knife in this case. Okay, so the next step, of course, is gonna be to set up for the wings to be installed, which means I'm gonna need to get the carbon fiber rod next. We're gonna think about where the wires are while we're doing this. See how the wires are underneath? Okay, so that's probably about where I would prefer to have them. Okay, so we'll just slide that through. Then we're gonna put mucilage on the receiving side of it and not the other side. That'll make it a little bit easier to make it not all messy. Okay, so just all over there, and then all over this, and all over that surface, just like that, okay? So we're gonna spread that here in a minute. So yeah, so building this plane, it's not hard. It's a, you know, maybe an hour and a half process to get it to the point where it's like a plug and fly. The radio setup will be pretty simple. We of course cover that in full detail at Brian Phillips RC. One of the things that we bring that the other reviewers don't bring here on YouTube is we actually go through the entire process of building a plane. Please do me a favor. I know some of you guys that are new to the channel might be inclined to ask me a question about the review. You can certainly always ask questions, but it is a little bit hard for me to remember things like settings. If you don't remember what they are, or if you didn't catch it in the video, just watch the video until you do catch it. Also, a little tip is when you're done using this stuff, you can actually clean the tip off if you want and then that stuff won't be there. You can also take and slather this all over the tip, and that will actually somewhat protect this from drying out on you, okay? Not totally, but somewhat, okay? Did I spread the other one too? I did both, right?
I don't think, yeah.
Okay. So then this wire is gonna pass through here in this little vertical slit, just like that. It doesn't look like it's big enough, but it is. Okay, then they've got this stupidly designed cover that's gonna make it hard for it to get through. See that? See how it's not lined up? Mm-hmm. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab a flat bladed screwdriver and I'm gonna just walk that over a hair. Why, China? Why? Okay, see, pushed it through. Okay, now it's through. Now, while it's still loose enough to be able to manipulate its position, I'm gonna slip that on and then slide it back most of the way. And then before I get it all the way, I'm gonna grab that cable and pull it out. Just kind of grab it, slide that needle, not needle nose, slide that tip through between the wires, walk it through, just like that. Slip it on, and there you have it. Okay, so now, same process on the other side. I'm gonna make sure it's flat this time. I did not do that on the other side, I probably should have. Okay, so we'll just try slipping this in. Looks like this one's gonna go easier because I can already see it lining up with the hole better. Yeah, way easier. Mm. Then I'm gonna slip the carbon fiber rod through and just kind of push that in. See if I can get my fingers through. See? Really no problems there. Now I'm gonna push the rod. The rod's actually gonna push to the other side now. Okay, because it had kind of forced out. Pretty simple. So there you have it. You got your left, you got your right, you got your throttle, and that's everything. That's all you have to do for a regular basic flight. So I do point of, well, I don't do FPV flying, which of course would have a camera and you would, you know, be filming from this vantage point. I fly line of sight. So when I'm flying, I launch the plane, I do my flying, I land. I like the perspective of being on the ground and watching a plane fly by. It's cool, it's like your own little air show. But a lot of people like FPV flying, and that's exactly what this thing is designed to do, is FPV, and people that wanna capture some video footage and things like that. We don't share that on the channel because I don't have a Part 107 exemption, and so therefore I'm not legally allowed to do it in the United States. So I'm not gonna do that because they would wanna make an example out of me. So I'm not gonna do that until I get a Part 107, then I might. Okay, so next step for us is to basically look at it and adore it. This would be in the plug and fly state now and fully assembled. Let's see how it looks. Ooh, look at that, so beautiful. There's a little bit of glue that just spread. I wanna see where it's coming from. There it is. Must have got a little glue on the counter. But yeah, otherwise I think it's good. These little Zod in Eachine, in this case, planes of this style have been really fun. They're not hard to build, but this is a lot more involved than your run-of-the-mill plug and fly plane. Now, I don't want that to discourage you from doing a plane like this, but you obviously have some more tools you need, like, you know, soldering iron, some flux, solder. You're gonna obviously need some glue, but glue is something that you're gonna need eventually anyway, so you might as well plan on having it. Things I'm not crazy about on this plane are just the fact that you have to assemble all that stuff, but again, it's not a deal breaker for most people. Just be aware that you do have to do it, okay? So obviously we'll link to this in the video description below. Let's go ahead and throw decals on real quick while we're sort of between steps.
Okay.
This is just all of our little standoffs if you're gonna do FPV gear. So we'll keep that for a later date. Did they tell us where the stickers were supposed to go?
I don't believe so, and I don't think there's really even a picture of it.
Yeah, there isn't really a picture. See this? This is where the glue was coming from.
Oh.
It was just popping out from that seam that we just glued. So I don't like to get glue all over the counter. I think I want to put this black stuff on the bottom.
Can you, do they go just, yeah, like above the, no, it doesn't really say.
What? I've got a place in mind.
Okay.
I'm just going to stick them right here, like on the leading edge of the wing. Why on the bottom? Because if you do it on the bottom, then you've got a little bit of detail on the bottom, and it's not just a white surface. White surfaces tend to disappear in the sky, especially if it's cloudy. That would be cool on the top too, but whatever. There's not really a right or wrong answer. It's just whatever you guys like. And that's one of the nice things about these little planes is that, you know, since you're not married to some scale model, you can kind of make it look however you want. But I like to cover up those little mold release spots. Okay. Some rough edges here. Probably would have been smart to cut those down with an X-Acto knife. Okay. Then we got Eachine stickers, just so you can make sure you don't make a fool of yourself and call it like another brand, like Zod or something. That's too big. I'll do it on the right wing. And then I'll do it on the right wing underneath. Okay, just like this. And then I'll do the wing sharklets. Just like this. Super cool. As you can see, it's real flexible. It's not gonna break easily. That doesn't mean if you fly it into the ground at 100 miles an hour, it's not gonna break, because it will break if you fly it into the ground at 100 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm. It will.
I don't know that I can say that I have an exact experience with that, except that I do. Okay, so there's like some arrows here. I don't know what the arrows indicate, but I'm gonna go ahead and, what do you think, camera crew?
Yeah, that's good.
Like that?
Sure.
And then these look like eyes. Oh, there are kind of spots here. Look like a nose.
Are these actually white decals?
Yeah, they're white decals. We're gonna stick those on too.
Okay.
I'm not sure if they're gonna look good or not, but we'll see if they cover the black so other people can learn from our experience. I don't really understand that, if that's supposed to be like some mythical beast or something. It looks like a nose to me. Mm-hmm. X-Acto knives are really good for placing stickers, by the way. These stickers aren't gonna last long on the front. I can tell there's so much mold release on this plane. Mm-hmm. It's so slick, I doubt those things will last. Looks kind of like a snake. See, look, this one's already peeled off. Wow, that didn't take long.
Even the Eachine, even the big one's peeling off.
Well, I thought I had kind of pushed it down hard, and I think I did.
I just think there's
there's so much mold release. You're gonna have to take and put alcohol on this. Wipe it down before you even stick those on, otherwise they're just gonna come right off. See, look, show the people.
Wait,
hey, show the people. See?
Mm-hmm. And they're gonna buzz.
All right, well, that's life in the big city, I guess. So the white ones are also a waste of time, but we'll try them anyway, just so you guys can see what they look like. Yeah, that looks really kind of dumb. I'd say that's a waste of time. Okay, yeah. So we'll stop wasting time on that. That's garbage. And the next step for us is gonna be radio setup. We do have a little bit more work mechanically in getting these installed and these installed, but we can't really do that until we center the servos. So we're gonna pause, get stuff cleaned up, and come right back. All right, so we have alcohol, isopropyl alcohol. The decals keep pulling up on this while we were cleaning up. I noticed a few of these are pulling up, so I'm just gonna show you if this works. A little bit of alcohol, okay. Dry it off somewhat. It should get the mold release off of there. And then stick the decal back down. It's probably not gonna stick very good still, okay? And then we'll see if that works. This one was also peeled up. And then I noticed that these were peeling up. See, it's peeling up on the edge. Mm-hmm. So it's gonna be like a huge frustration factor if you've got decals that don't want to stay down. So I'm actually just gonna kind of stick that off to the side for now. Alcohol, yeah. We're just gonna wipe it down quick. The areas that we know for sure that we're gonna have a decal. And we'll see kind of if it works. And then you guys will know whether or not to even waste your time on the decals. Because to be perfectly frank, I can, you know, take it or leave it. I like the decals, but it's not gonna make or break the model for me, that's for sure.
No.
It's not like these are some amazing decal or something, you know, makes it look scale or whatever.
And if they're just gonna be a source of frustration.
Looks like it's lifting already. Hard to say. Let's check the middle one. Yep, not wasting any more time on it.
Okay.
Okay, so don't worry about alcohol. This thing just is never gonna really, there might be a better product out there, but I'm not gonna waste my time on it. Okay, so we're gonna use the iRange X RM601, which is a little one. This comes out of a crashed plane. You may remember it from a Zod plane that went.
We are using that one? Mm-hmm. Oh, good.
Yep, round 2. This is an NX3, or excuse me, an NX3, yeah, NX3, which is a stabilizer. So we already had double-sided tape, so I'll show you how to make use of that again. That needs to be mounted somewhat in the center of gravity. This is indifferent to its position. Spatial awareness is not gonna be a factor for the receiver, just for the stabilizer in this case, okay? So we'll go ahead and open this up. Okay. So then this needs to be spatially aware. And I forget what direction this has to head. I don't remember. I guess we'll find out. I think we'll try it this way first. Ooh, but you see what's gonna happen with those top pins?
Too tall?
Yeah, isn't gonna fit. So we'll have to go, okay, remember, so the way a flight controller works is the flight controller feeds out to a control surface. So it looks like signal is forward. So this is gonna be aileron out and rudder out. Or aileron and elevator. I don't know which one yet. Because this is gonna be a V-tail. Okay, see that V-tail? Or delta, not V-tail. V-tail would be at an angle. Delta's flat. Okay, so we're gonna turn that on, okay? And then if I don't have it right, we're gonna know because the way it's correcting. There is a manual that comes with this, but I'm not gonna use the manual since I don't have it. Okay, then the throttle. This is gonna go to the receiver. Then there's 3 lines that come from the receiver into this. So we're gonna have auxiliary in. That's gonna be like how we turn things on and off. Then we're gonna have elevator in and aileron in. Okay. So there's that. All right, so now we have the transmitter on. This is an NX8 Spectrum DSM2, or excuse me, DSMX. Okay, so we've got the Husky Ultimate in here, so we'll just hit the scroll button, scroll down to System Setup, disconnect RF, the light goes off here. Go to Model Select, add new model, create an acro. Now this receiver is already technically bound to our transmitter, but we're gonna create a new template anyway. So now model type is already set. Model name is where we're gonna type in. This thing is the Eachine, what is it?
Mobula.
Mobula? Okay, so we're gonna scroll the name and we'll come right back. I am using a legacy keyboard. Okay, so we got the Mobula 650 millimeters. Aircraft type. You're gonna set your tail and wing as normal because of the stabilizer. I wanna change my picture to, we'll probably just do that, that'll be close enough. And I don't know if we're gonna do any flight modes, so we're just gonna leave it and then we'll walk out. First thing we're gonna do is throttle cut, set it to switch H. Looking down here to see that it's working, turning it off, see that the throttle is up and down, okay? Put it back on and it's working, good. Timer we're gonna set to 5 minutes with a 1 out. Anything over 25 seconds will start it. I want to inhibit all the warnings until the 10-second I want voice, and then expiration I want tone and vibrate, and then a tone every minute thereafter. Okay, so we walk over here, we see the elevator moving, we see the rudder moving, which we don't have rudders, and we see aileron moving. Okay, so we're gonna click and go to dual rates and expo. Ailerons, we're gonna set that to switch F. We'll just do like, geez, 5, 10, 25, which is more than usual, down to 80, okay? Rates at 100. 25, or rates at 100 and then expos at 10. Rates are at 100, expos at 5. Now I'm also gonna put all 3 on the same setup. Why do I do that? Because then I have a place to start from, and I have a place to go, and I have a place to come back from if there's too much. Why am I going all the way up to 25 here instead of 15? Instead of going to 90, why 80? Because this thing looks like it could be a handful. And then rudder, yeah, you're right. I don't actually have a rudder on this plane, so I'm gonna set it anyway. Why am I setting it anyway? You'll understand in a minute. I'm gonna basically set, I don't know why it does that on my transmitter anymore. It's really annoying. Okay, so now, why am I setting that? I don't even have a rudder. Because I'm gonna go into mixing. I'm gonna go aileron to rudder, is that right? No, I want rudder to aileron. There, rudder to aileron. I don't think I ever do it this way. I think I do it through just a regular mix, right? Whoops, I don't want that. That's 50 on one direction and 50 on the other. Okay, now watch what happens. Switches inhibit, I'm gonna turn that to on. Now when I move my rudder, the ailerons move. So when I do a hand launch, I'm not having to get all the way back to this stick to move it, okay? And I'm gonna set these to 100. Ooh, not 120, just 100. Now look how this looks down here. When I move my rudder, the ailerons move. When I move my ailerons, the ailerons move. When I move my rudder, the ailerons and the rudder move. Okay? If you want to get super sophisticated so that you can't overdrive it, then you would have to make a normal mix and you would have to set up aileron to rudder. No, we're just not going to do that. That's too complicated. I was going to make it so it canceled itself out, but that's fine. Right now, if you go to monitor, you can see what I'm talking about. Move the aileron, it moves the rudder. Move the ailerons, it moves the ailerons. Okay? Move the elevator, it moves the elevator. Move the rudder, it moves both. Move the aileron, it moves both. Now, be aware, it will overdrive the other one. Okay? I'm in the lowest expo, which also reduces the rates. Now my rates are full. See how that works? It's like 100 and 100, 100 and 100, but then you can overdrive them. See that? If you have both sticks moved. So just be aware of it. Throttle cut's on. I'm gonna go to bind. I'm just gonna leave it on just to show you it can be done. Disconnect RF, yes, and then it's ready to bind. I'm gonna go ahead and plug this into the ESC on the throttle channel, which is channel 1. And I have no idea what direction the plugs are supposed to be, but I'm assuming negative is on the bottom here, but I could be wrong. Do you have any idea? I have no idea.
It's kind of ambiguously marked.
It is ambiguously marked. So I'm gonna go to channel 1, okay? How do you know it's channel 1? By the way, my RF is back on. Throttle's on channel 1. It is ambiguously marked. That is not untypical. Okay, we need to be careful about this because this is not positioned properly yet, so we just need to be aware of it, okay? Also, what channel are we gonna use for our auxiliary controls? Auxiliary 2 is already hooked up, and that's a place I can easily get to. So why don't we go ahead and use auxiliary 2, except auxiliary 2 is on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so that's not gonna work. So we would need to go down to auxiliary 1 or gear. Why don't we just make it gear? Be stabilizer on, stabilizer off. Good enough for me. There is also a stabilizer on, auto leveling on, and then something else. I don't know. I'm not gonna really mess with it, I guess. I'm not sure. Should I? I gotta think about that. So gear is where we're gonna plug that in.
Okay.
So that's gonna be mode, which is aux in. Before we get any further, let's make sure we have this hooked up right, okay? Throttle cut is on. So I just need to be careful that I don't cause a problem for myself. So throttle cut's on, throttle stick's down, but we aren't yet technically bound, but we kind of are because I've actually bound this before.
Oh.
So I'm just gonna see what happens. It shouldn't work, but it could work. It's possible. Okay, so I've laid this down. Nothing, nothing. See this, how it's flashing? Throttle, throttle. See, it's not bound, so it doesn't know what to do, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get a bind plug. You need a bind plug to do some planes, and other planes you have bind buttons, like the AR631 is what I would use if I had a plethora of them, which I currently don't. So we're just gonna use a bind plug and use this inferior choice. It is cheaper, throttle cut's on. I'm gonna click, scroll down to bind. I normally wouldn't do it this way. Hit yes, it shuts off. Okay, now we're gonna plug in the bind button or the bind switch. That forces this into bind. Binding. It's probably not gonna work. Bind failed. I'm gonna go back to bind. Bind failed. Camera crew is gonna hold this carefully, make sure it doesn't get away from you. I'm gonna go further away. Bind failed again, so we're gonna try power cycling. I'm gonna actually turn this off this time. Sometimes you need to actually power cycle it. Okay, so that's off. Unplug power, plug it in while bind plug is in. Pressing and holding the bind button. Binding. Bind failed again.
The light is flashing faster though now.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, than it was the first time you were trying to do it.
Okay. So then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click and go down to bind, bind, bind failed. Very strange. So let's see if we were doing anything wrong. First of all, this could be plugged in wrong, okay? But I kind of doubt it if it's powered up, okay? So I'm gonna unbind, I'm gonna undo the bind plug, I'm gonna undo power. I'm gonna plug this in. Okay, don't really care about your song right now. Now I'm gonna plug in the bind, which is a different order, and I did that on purpose. Now I'm gonna go to bind. Bind failed again, goodness gracious.
And there are no lights on the receiver right
No
now.
lights on?
Nope.
Okay. So I'm just gonna unplug this because that takes the power away. I'm gonna plug in the bind plug. Now I'm gonna plug this into channel 1. Okay, so it's obviously flashing fast. Bind. Bind failed again.
Goodness.
This is like the worst we've had in a long time. You just stay where you are there, camera crew.
Okay.
Hold it by this, the inboard portion, you'll have better control, otherwise you create a lever. Okay, unplugging it, trying to plug it in backward. Incorrect, okay? Unplugged. It didn't like it because I had it upside down. So on channel 1, I'm plugged in, channel 1, see? Then I'm gonna plug in the bind plug, which shorts, that shorts the negative to ground. Okay, hold still. We're gonna try this again. We're just gonna go even further away. And if this keeps working, then we're just, hey, why did you move? I want you to be where you were. Okay, holding the bind button this time. Bind failed. Okay, so we're gonna do this off camera and come back.
Take that.
All right, so after lots of fun, I'm gonna go ahead and switch this receiver because I got it to come through and say bind DSMX 22 milliseconds like usual, and it supposedly worked, but I can't get it to work. I can't get it to start the throttle. I can't do any of that stuff. So I'm just gonna disconnect all these wires. I was doing it off camera, so I apologize. You will see the whole process, so forgive me for that. Basically on this receiver thing, this is actually the stabilizer. There's one plug that goes to one aileron here. And see how it says minus, so the minus goes to the back. This is just from one of the two. It doesn't matter which one's which. There's one here and one here. Okay, I wanna switch them just so they're lined up the way they sit in the plane. So it says aileron out, and then one of them says elevator out. So I'm plugging those in, and then I just have little servo extensions that are male to male. And it's aileron in, elevator in. There's no rudder on this plane, so you don't have a rudder in, and then you have auxiliary in. Okay, so on your regular receiver, so this is an AR620, it's a simple receiver, doesn't have any advanced stabilization or anything, or I wouldn't be using the stabilizer. So in this case, I'm gonna use this just to show you how much easier this is when it actually works. So as you can see, we're in our bind failed, throttle, aileron, elevator. Okay, so the first 3 channels, throttle, of course, is gonna come from the ESC. That one's the one that we soldered on earlier. So it's not impossible that I've made a mistake. I don't really know what that would be. And I'm gonna untangle the lead now. I should have braided that. That is one thing you can do with the 3 wires like that, so they don't get to be in a mess. So that's gonna go in here. Now you can tell there's no ambiguity because it's labeled here, the minus is on the bottom. It's kind of hard to see on that. The plastic has got a raised little bump. It says minus plus S. So that's gonna go here. Now I won't need a bind plug. See, already came alive, but it's not bound, so I probably shouldn't have had that plugged in. Sorry folks, that was a bad call on my part. Kind of overlooked it. Then this is gonna go to channel 5, that's the auxiliary, just the first one I picked up. So the orange is the signal, the brown is the ground. Then this one is for elevator. So elevator, look over there on the screen, is 3rd. So we'll just plug that into the 3rd position. And then this one is for the ailerons. So the ailerons are gonna be kind of the same scenario. They're plugged into channel 2, okay? So now we can press the bind when we're ready. But in this case, since we're a little bit more confident this is gonna work, and I don't wanna fight this thing if we end up having it satisfactorily set up, I'm gonna just glue this down like this. Just a little bit of mucilage to hold that foam, because that foam would have otherwise been sticky before we put it into a plane and then crashed it. But that has to be stationary. Now I don't know if it has to be one way versus the other, but we're gonna find that out very quickly here. And I give myself a little bit of leeway. It'd be nice to be able to put it this way, but I need to be able to get to those 3 trim pots. Those trim pots are how we set and identify to the software inside what direction we want the correction to happen. Okay, so I'm just sticking that down. You'd use 3M tape or some Velcro or whatever. Probably 3M tape. I'm gonna take a screwdriver. I'm gonna turn this. Delta is in the off position. I'm gonna turn it to the on condition here. Okay, so it's in the on condition now. So that's gonna tie the elevator, and it's gonna mix the elevators to be telebonds. So they're gonna act as ailerons and elevator together. All right, so everything is hooked up. This doesn't need to be mounted, but for the moment, we're just gonna kind of tie up cables so that they aren't a problem and tuck them in a place where they're gonna be safe and not in the way. And then at some point, we'll, possibly reorganize things a little bit. So for the sake of simplicity, we want this to be sitting still. We don't want it to be rocking or in a weird position because it is gonna be aware of its position here. So I think I'll probably just use this just to kind of prop it up a little bit on the tail. That's too much. Maybe if I do this. I'm not gonna be running the throttle right away. Ooh, that's pretty good. So that's got it nice and level attitude. And then I'm gonna go ahead and turn off my transmitter. See, it says bind failed. So I'm just gonna turn that off. Let that power off. Obviously we got this thing out of the way. If you have a receiver that doesn't work once, it's probably not a big deal. If you have a receiver that doesn't work 30 times in a row, probably throw it away. Safety 31st. Okay, so plug this in, nothing happens. Press the button, there's a slow flash. Now I'm gonna take and throttle cut. We're gonna press the bind button and then turn it on. This is probably far enough. First try.
Yep.
Now I'm gonna put my hand here just in case. Now it's auto configuring. There is some telemetry data that is not really helpful for us on this plane. Okay, so now elevator up, elevator down, rudder or roll left and right, and throttle cut is on. We're gonna lift it up and then test it with the throttle cut on. It's working. Throttle cut's off. It doesn't jump, that's good. All the way up, all the way down. Okay, so it is good. Now it's armed. So sometimes there's deviations between plane to plane. So that's a lot of power.
Wow.
Okay, so I'm gonna hold this here and just show you. Power. Throttle cuts on, tested.
I don't think it really needs a 4S.
It doesn't need a 4S, are they kidding? So anyway, also I just wanted to take a minute to talk about this. Sometimes you're gonna get this when you use that mucilage. I just noticed it when I flipped it over. So you get that little poop out of glue. Go ahead and take a second when you notice it and just peel it out of there. You'll never regret getting that off of there.
It's probably holding your decal down.
It is probably holding the decal on. Okay, so now that we know that everything is bound, now we can go ahead and set things up. So we've already done most of the setup we need, but now we just need to figure out what mode we're in and how it's gonna be activated. Currently it's on gear channel, so there's gonna be like an all the way on, all the way off. This battery, I assume it's gonna end up where the battery is expected to go up here, but I don't know that for a fact yet. It kind of depends on how the center of gravity works out, which we'll test here in a minute. But for the moment, let's go ahead and just kind of make sure we have everything has a home. Okay, so we're just kind of stuffing wires where wires need to go. And then we're gonna stuff this in here, kind of sideways, see if that fits. No, it doesn't quite fit. That's gonna be too big to sit on top of here with the lid on. So maybe I can stuff it here. Nope, that's too big also. That's too big also. Come on, man. Come on, man. So I don't know. I guess that's gonna ride up here with the battery for the moment until such a time as we come up with a better plan, okay? So you might notice that there's a flashy flashlight on this receiver, or excuse me, not receiver, but flight controller. Right there, flashy light. When I move the gear switch, it's gonna change. It's still responding to my mechanical inputs. Okay? When it's off, it's got another status, okay? I wanna make that a 3-position switch because I know there's 3 positions. So you can see that's only 1 position. I'm gonna make a reassignment. So I'm gonna go to System Setup, Disconnect RF, go down to Channel Assign. See how this says gear on switch A? I'm just gonna change that to B. Then I'm gonna just change this to inhibit, change this to inhibit, okay? So now this one's gonna control it. See how there's nothing? Then there's solid. Nothing, nothing. This is stabilization, probably plus auto leveling. Nope, that's probably auto. It's hard to tell right now, so I'm gonna go to the nothing setting. Why do I want the nothing setting?
Because then we at least know the servos are centered.
So I can put my servos on. Yep, my servo linkages. So guys, we don't often show complete epic failures like that because we don't have a lot of them, but we did on this piece of junk. So yeah. We'll make sure to link to something that's not garbage. And interestingly enough, we did crash that plane, or maybe it crashed the plane. Okay, so we have a control horn. We need to get that in there. Let's see if this lid goes on too, just for curiosity's sake. Oh yeah, that's good.
Well, and I think the other day somebody was like, why don't you figure stuff out and then show it? But part of what you do is show your thought process of figuring it out.
Okay, so see that just slips on? Mm-hmm. See how it's mostly vertical? And then we're gonna put this one on and see if it's mostly vertical. And then before we put the screw in there to set it permanently, yeah.
Can you still test? So
yes.
you'll be able to test it now? Okay.
I can just slip them on. See, I just slipped it on. It's kind of giving me a little bit of trouble. I don't feel like I'm lined up properly yet. Oh, there it goes. Okay, so it's on there. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn to a different mode. You can see them moving. And I don't know if it's moving the right way. I think it is. It looks correct. Okay, now this would be like auto leveling, I'm assuming.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Okay. So what I want to do is I want to move my ailerons. So I'm going to put this plane down like it would be if it was being controlled. And when I roll this way, then that would, oh look, there's a black screw. That's handy. Where did that come from? That's always convenient. Oh, that's one of those plastic ones. I dropped it.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, so that would be pulling this up, which would pull that down, and this one's pushing down, which would do the correct orientation. Same thing here. So now we know we're in the right orientation. So let's go ahead and throw some screws in there to hold those on the end of the servos. They look like they're about right. Looks like the one closer to you is maybe a little bit further forward. So I'm gonna see if I can go back one little bit. Yeah, that's fine too, I guess. Looks like it's back too far. We run into that a lot on servos, especially cheap ones. There's too big of a spline difference. Okay, so the shorter screwdriver, this shorter screw is the one you need. And yes, you can put these in from right here, if you're careful. You just kind of got to get the tip to go down and line up properly. So you see how it's kind of pushing it at an angle right now? That's going to cause it to not really hold well. We want this to be on there kind of loosely. Boy, it just wants to get in there really good. See what I'm talking about there, camera crew? Mm-hmm. See, it's going to want to put it in at an angle. Mm. See that? Mm-hmm. So I don't want that. I want that to be, goodness gracious. Just having all sorts of problems. I'm going to switch to a different screwdriver. Another China screwdriver. See if we have better luck with this one. See, I'm just going to back that off until the tip is all that's penetrating. There we go. There we go. See how I'm in at an angle? That's going to allow me to run it in straight. I know it sounds so counterintuitive what I just said, but without stripping the hole. I'm putting the screwdriver into the Phillips tip, the head of it, at an angle. And that allows me to do this from above. I'll show you what I'm talking about here if I can get a good enough shot of it. Oh my goodness, it's hard to film this. So what I'm saying is I want to be in here like this so that I can still turn it. If I'm like this, then that's going to force it in at an angle. Mm-hmm. You want it to be like that so you can barely just catch the edge. And then once it's started, then you can tweak it in. Okay. So I'll try to demonstrate that better. Remember, the throttle cut is on this plane right now. So I can push it in that way, but then I'm going to kind of walk it down so it's going in straight. Yep, got it. So once it's started, then it's not such a big factor. See how it's going in? And I kind of have the screwdriver at an angle. Mm-hmm. I hope people understand what I'm talking about because that's an important detail.
I think so.
All right. So now, remember how I had the rudder set up to control that also? Okay, so that looks like it's going to be right. Let's put our linkages on now. The linkages are adjustable, of course. Okay, just getting all that hardware to fall down. There's a nut, a ball joint, and a screw. So I want the maximum output, so I'm going to go to the outside hole, line it up with the outside hole, give it a twist. And you'll note that you want this on both ends, preferably to be square when there's no input. See, I'm not in a stabilized mode because I'm in the middle. If it was stabilized, you'd have to be careful that it's not moving when you're doing this. See, it's not changing because of the spatial awareness is off. So I need to screw this in. So I'm gonna go like this, 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then I'm gonna line this up with the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it was like 16 half turns. That's crazy. Okay, it looks like I need to come out half a turn. There's half a turn. Maybe just a little bit more. Yep, too much, or not enough. Ooh, we're getting close, getting real close. See, if I were to line that hole up, you see what happens there? This lifts. So I gotta bring it out another half turn, maybe another 2 half turns. Yeah, that's really close. It's probably gonna be a middle step. Okay. So then feed the screw through. And then just see, now that you've done that, yeah, that's still up. I gotta go half a turn more. There's half a turn more. Pull the screw out. Feed this back through the ball joint. Try it again. Yeah, that's pretty stinking good right there. This is a nylock, so it's gonna be challenging without another tool. I may have to have some needle nose pliers or something. Okay. Do I have them out? Yes, I do. You wanna turn that light on so they can see anything? You guys see what's going on there? It's just a tough spot to hold. 1.5 millimeter drive there. Got it started now finally. Okay, before I torque it all the way down, let's see if we look good. Looks pretty good. This is a Zod / Eachine issue. Throttle cuts off, watch. Stops beeping. It's an inactivity warning. Oh. I don't want an inactivity warning. Right. I want to be able to sit it there and walk away and 6 years later come back and have a dead battery. I don't care. If I'm inactive on a plane, now I don't want that on my transmitter necessarily, but I don't want it on my plane. That's just not cool. I think it's supposed to be like if you crashed or something, you can go find it because it'll beep at you. Okay, so I'm gonna go until this is tight, and I can feel it's tight, then I'm gonna back it off like a quarter turn or so. Let's put this out of the way. Okay, so now we're done on that one. We have a nice perfect transition here and here, so we're even. Good movement, no binding, okay? So now we have to do the exact same thing over here. It's not hard, it's just a matter of doing it. See, that's the thing. When we show these videos, a lot of times people are like, geez, why do you show such a long video? Well, the reason we show long videos is because not everybody is as skilled as you. And there's some people that are new in the hobby that need some help, and we try to do that here on Brian Phillips RC. So if you're new to the hobby, welcome. We're here to make you not feel like you're dumb or something like they do at the hobby shop sometimes, and that's really frustrating because it's like you're the customer. We won't try to make you feel dumb for asking stupid questions. And when I say stupid questions, I mean questions that would otherwise be considered stupid because everybody seems to know them, even though the manufacturers had never explained it to us and we just had to figure it out on our own magically. That's what we do here. It also makes for a really long video, so my apologies to those of you who do know what we're talking about. A lot of times these videos are not really made for you. They're made for the people that need some help. And so you watch the flight at the beginning and then you buy from the links below to help support us. You move on to the next video. And that's perfectly fine. We understand that's kind of a practical reality of our channel, but we do get punished by YouTube, just so you guys know. If you weren't aware, the algorithm is not real fond of people that make long format videos. So the way you can help us is by liking the video, even if it's extremely long and you only needed 30 seconds of it. There's plenty of websites out there where people watch 30 seconds and then ignore the rest of the 20 minutes. But at any rate, in fact, there's a whole industry and people really like it. So anyway, Brian Phillips RC is no different, but we do have our clothes on most of the time. Roll left, roll right, elevator wrong, elevator wrong. First things first, servo setup, travel, reverse, elevator. Elevator up, elevator down, roll left, roll right, yaw left simulation, which is also means roll left, or excuse me, roll right. See what happens, it just overdrives, not a big deal. I can live with that. Elevator up, elevator down, throttle cuts on. We're gonna go ahead and lift this up, check the throttle. It's not working, which is what we want because the throttle hold is on or throttle cuts on, throttle cuts off. Okay, that's working. I believe it's braking, by the way, too. Throttle's. Feels like it's braking. It's kind of hard to tell on this one because it's slowing down really quick. Feels like it's braking. I feel like that would probably, ooh, you want to know a good test? Throttle cuts on. Watch this. If you want to know if braking is on, this is how you can differentiate between braking being on and braking being off. Take the cover off on this particular plane. You can unplug the power. Feels, excuse me, feels, throttle cuts on. Watch this. Throttle cuts off, throttle sticks all the way up. I'm holding this so it won't start. Keep listening. Come on, you can do it. Okay, now, throttle, stop. I can't tell yet. Okay, we're trying to set the braking.
9, 8,
Don't taunt me, lady. Throttle cut's off, throttle's all the way up, battery is unplugged. Battery is plugged in. Listening. Come on, you can do it. It should be going into the programming mode, but some of these are not set up the same way. Waiting. That was the stabilizer initiating. Come on. 50%. Listening all the way up. 50%. Nothing. All the way down. All the way up, all the way down. I've tricked it totally now. Okay, so it just armed. Throttle cut's on and tested. I can't tell. Anyway, that normally the way you do it is you have the throttle all the way on, you energize the circuit. That allows you to enter the programming mode for the ESC, the electronic speed controller, and then of course you can just listen to the chimes, the respective chimes, and you turn the volume, or not the volume, but the throttle all the way down to indicate that you want to turn on or off a particular function, and then it reboots and you try again. And then you can turn on your braking. I think this plane would need braking, but it might actually kind of help because it's gonna slow the plane down by tractoring the prop. All right, so next thing we need to check is the stabilizer is going in the right direction, and that'll be the last step before we get ready to fly this. So first things first, test the throttle so we don't get cut. Now we're gonna move, correct way, correct way, correct way, correct way. Everything's working there, correct way, correct way. Okay, now we're gonna check for stabilizer on. So when I move this up, it goes up, down, up, down. Now we're gonna look at this one. Remember, they're separate channels. Up, down, up, down. I'm looking for that to go up when I lift it up. Up, down. Now, that isn't auto leveling. Okay, fine. That stabilizer off. That stabilizer on also. Up, down, up, down. I'm looking. Now I'm gonna look at this axis and I'm gonna roll the back up and I wanna see them both go. Yep, they both go, they both go. They both go, they both go. That's a delta wing configuration. As long as they go in the right direction, we're fine. Now in this setting, I believe it's supposed to auto level, but I'm not seeing any auto leveling. So I'm just gonna assume that it's basically stabilization or nothing. Fine, I don't care, I don't want auto leveling anyway. So that being said, and now that we know that, let's look at the screen again. So we have no lights on with stabilizer off, and then we have a solid light on with stabilizer. We have a flashy light with the other mode, okay? There is a gain knob on each of these control channels. If it's going the wrong direction, you turn it to neutral. This is all the way nothing. This is all the way one way, this is nothing. This is all the way the other way. So there's no rotational change to rotate the pitch axis or the yaw axis or the roll axis. You just turn the knob. Suppose the correction was going the wrong way on the ailerons. Then you would take this and you would turn it all the way down to flat, and then you would go beyond and it would go the opposite direction. The amplitude is set by how much you move that knob. Okay, so I'm gonna turn it all the way up in the same direction that's already working. Ooh, I think I might have turned the elevator the other way. So now watch this. See, I turned it the other way. So the correction's going the wrong way on the elevator. So I need to take this knob and turn it all the way back the other way. Now watch this. Now it's gonna go up when I lift it, it's gonna go down when I lower it. When I go up on this wing, it's gonna go up. Also, when I go up on this wing, this one's gonna go down, okay? So that's the stabilizer. That's working. I still don't see any auto leveling, which is fine. Okay, so we're good there. Stabilizer off, stabilizer on. Okay, now, I wanna do a little experiment here. Servo setup. Currently, we're on this channel, okay? The gear channel. Click into the function list, scroll all the way down to system setup, disconnect RF, and I'm gonna go to channel assign. Instead of being on B, I wanna go to the knob. Right knob. Why? So, go to monitor mode, now watch this. There's no light on, because we're in the middle. When I go up, it's going to the flashy light. Up, down. Up, down, up, down. Up, down, up, down. You hear the amplitude?
It worked.
Amplitude's up. Amplitude's down. Nothing.
Nice.
Amplitude is up. Amplitude is up. So, what that does for us is it makes an adjustment for gain factor. That's nice.
Yeah.
So, but I want to be able to turn it on and off quick. So what we're going to do is we're going to, well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to turn it on and off quick. Ooh, look at that. You see that? Did you see that? When it's just sitting there? I was moving the whole channel. That's weird. See that?
Yeah.
That's
I
weird.
did.
That's the sort of thing I don't like to find out about later. So anyway, the reason I showed you that is I'm gonna go back to system setup and I'm gonna disconnect RF. I'm gonna go down to channel assign. I'm gonna put the gear back to switch B, so I have 3 positions, okay? Now, what I wanna do is I wanna basically make, I'm just gonna leave it because I don't wanna find out I'm wrong. So stabilizer's on, stabilizer's on, stabilizer's off. So on, up, down, roll up, roll down, roll up, roll down, up, down. Everything's controlling right. So that's the key. Now, if you want to change your gain on that, you're going to have to get a little bit creative by going to mixing. You're going to make a mix, normal. The input is going to be gear, and the output is going to be gear. Excuse me, that's going to be whatever this knob is. So I have to scroll to right knob. Okay, so right knob is going to be the input. It's going to make a change on gear, okay? So the rate's going to be something like, and I don't know which direction I need this to be. But what's going to happen is you see how gear goes up and it goes down still. Okay, when it's up, see how it moves up more or it moves down? So if it's nothing, it does nothing and I don't care. And this happens to be attached to auxiliary 3. That is irrelevant in this because we only have a 6-channel transmitter, or receiver rather. See how that changes? So that's gonna give us gain control. But I want it to be positive and negative. Okay, so now when you move this, it changes the absolute position of gear. But really, I want one setting to be attached to this position, and I want one setting to be attached to that position. So that's gonna be on when it's in this position. Then it's gonna be not true when it's in this position, which means I need to actually clear this and clear this. And then in that position, I want nothing. You see, in this position, however, I want it to act a certain way. Okay. So, see how it goes from 0 to plus 100 on the gear, or minus 100 rather. When I'm in nothing, it doesn't change anything. Okay? And then I think I want it to be true. Dang it, what did I do? Oh, you have to move the switch. I want that on. I want that off. You see how it's got that little slashy lines? See, there's no mix here. Then I don't know why it does that. See how there's two? See how that says curve 0, curve 1, curve 1? That needs to be curve 2. There we go. Okay, see how it's moving? The little dot? That's 0, that's 1, that's 2 on switch B. That's what's gonna make this turn on. And I want it to be on in that position only. Off in that position, off in that position. Does that make sense? So in curve 0, we have no mix. In curve 1, we have no mix, which I don't understand why that has to be grayed out like that. See, but I do want this mixed there. And that gives me the ability to control the amplitude there. And I need to make an offset so that it starts from, minus 100 probably. Okay, so that means the knob will set my gain. So there's no mix, there's no change. Then there's change. Then you can set another one that's exactly the same. It's gonna be right knob as an input, and the output is gonna be attached to gear. That's the gear channel that we're actually running, channel 5. And then it should be the same except the other direction this time, to minus 100. Oh, wait, I have to set this switch first, sorry. So I want it active in curve 0 and deactivate it here and here. That's my stupid inactivity again. So throttle cuts off, a little bit of throttle, put it back on, test it, we're good. This is gonna be like minus 100 and then minus 100 here. Or I need plus 100 here. I'm not sure which way that needs to be. See how it's changing the gear? See, and now that's gonna bring that back to the center. So no amplitude, it's off. The red light's off. There's amplitude, and then if I turn that up, there's more. Then there's less. Hardly anything, more, 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 hardly anything. Off. On the other way, amplitude, amplitude, and off. Hardly any. Okay. So that's correct. I want to just make sure this is off and this is off. Perfect. Now I need to go back to my other mix and I need to go down to, see how that says -1? I don't want that -1, I want that 0. I want this off, I want this off, and I want this on. See how it's off and off. See how they're dashed out? That shows you the mix. So now, we'll go back to the mix. We can watch it in this screen so it's nice and big. See how we're in the middle, so we have no light on. Then there's a light gonna come on. Oh shoot, did I? See how that goes all the way up? All the way down to where it's off. All the way up and off. I don't know if you guys can see what I'm doing with the knob. That's all the way up, that's off. That's all the way up, that's off. That's all the way up, that's off. I want to shut it off so when you go down, it doesn't do anything, okay? So now, there's nothing in this setting, regardless of your gain. Then in this setting, there's more gain or less gain, okay? So, if I go into this setting, and I bring the switch to the position that I will adjust with, see how it moves? And then I want it to not adjust down here. So I really don't care. That's fine. That's good enough. Because the reason I care on this plane and other planes, I use this knob for my master gain. And then I use another switch to activate or deactivate auto leveling or AS3X or safe or whatever it happens to be. So in this case, this will be nothing. This will be, for lack of better terms, AS3X, and this will be AS3X too. But then I'll be able to increase the gain with this knob on the fly. Once I get it set to what I like, then I can just set the switch to whatever I want it to be when that switch is true, okay? So why do we go through these in-depth, complicated exercises? Because if you don't do it, then the plane's gonna fly off and do crazy things and crash in the neighbor's yard. Or preferably not in the neighbor's yard, because you won't be flying next to your neighbor's house. But I'm a realist. It's gonna be your neighbor's yard. So let's stick this on here and see how the CG looks. CG marking is here and here. Looks like I'm probably gonna have to test this plane upside down. That's pretty darn close. We'll just try it this way, see if it balances. It's kind of hard to balance it with the wings and stuff up above. Also, I don't think it's gonna balance because it's not centered out. Let's see if I can even get that canopy to go on there now. Probably not that way, but I could turn the battery sideways. That would get me further up. Now, obviously, a lot of you guys are gonna have FPV gear in here too. Okay, so let's see how that looks. So err on the side of nose heavy on a plane like this, or you're going to tail heavy plane like this is not gonna fly very good. But you can see I'm balancing just behind the CG. Not sure if that's good enough or not, but I can tell that all my controls are working. I have immediate access to turn it off regardless of my game position. So if it gets way out of hand, I also have immediate access to reduce my gain so that I have less output versus my full output versus my less. And that also has more expo involved in it too. So really, what is the moral of the story? When you set up a plane that's crazy, that's gonna fly like crazy, you have to spend a little extra time getting things ready. This thing looks really cool. If you wanna help support the channel, buy the planes from the links that you like. If this thing was just a giant stinky turd, then we have lots of other planes, lots of different helicopters, and then lots of just generally different things. And if you like it and you wanna help support us, that's one way you can do it, is just buy those things. Small commissions come to us from the manufacturers and or distributors. And then you'll help support Brian Phillips RC and the camera crew behind the camera. Thank you, camera crew, for filming for us. Obviously, we've been doing some like big upgrades on our equipment, trying to go 4K. And then also we did powered paragliding recently, and we're gonna be getting into that a little bit too, here and there. I don't know if that's gonna be a big, huge part of the channel or if it's just gonna be a small part, but the idea is we wouldn't be doing it if it weren't for you guys coming back and watching, so we really appreciate you. Thanks to our patrons. If you want to support us, but you don't want to buy the planes because maybe you're overseas, it's expensive to ship or whatever, that's another way you can do it. And then PayPal, of course. But really, at the end of the day, we do this because we want you to be up flying, enjoying this, and you will perpetuate the hobby. Remember, we don't have much clout in this hobby, and all the politicians like to take away our freedoms to do things that are fun and safe and easy. It's easy to pick on a small group of people that love doing something that's like basically a wholesome, wonderful sport. I don't really understand it, but the point is we need more people out there just like you that are also addicted, and you know, because they say misery loves company, but we're not miserable, we're very happy, and we love this. Even though we have hundreds and hundreds of planes in our basement, we can barely walk through our back room. It's all part of the show, and we love it if you guys would come back, and don't forget to give us a like. This was a long video. It's a little bit frustrating sometimes when we do those radio setup, and to be honest with you, an AR631 would have made that take, what would you say, about 10 minutes?
Yeah.
I mean, it still takes a few minutes to set up safe in AS3X, and that's really what we lean toward because we like the Spectrum platform. Again, we understand some of you out there are using FR Sky, Open TX. You know, you might even have the Eachine, you might have a Radio Master. We really don't know what type of transmitter systems you guys like to use. We assume you're using Spectrum or you wouldn't be coming back. We just feel like Spectrum gives you the most clean, neat environment to find success, and there's more than one way to do things. I realize that, sort of like my mix for the master gain, that's something you wouldn't have to add at all. You could just set it the way you think it needs to be by using those trim pots, and you would be fine. You could just set it, like if you know there's way too much stabilizer, you could just get in there with a screwdriver after your maiden flight, turn that knob down. But here on Brian Phillips RC, we have to perform on the first flight, second flight, sometimes third flights. That's all we get, and then we're moved on to the next plane. So the thing is, you might have 30, 40 flights to really get this thing refined in, we have one. So when we take this thing off and we fly it for you, we want you to know the BS reality of what we experienced. Now, take that with a grain of salt. Depends on what you put in a plane, how good it's gonna perform. Obviously, in this case, we have the AR620, which is a good, solid transmitter receiver combo, because there is telemetry coming back, but it's not gonna give us voltage or anything like that. So part of the voltage alarm needs to be thrown in here too. But at the end of the day, if you use a 631 or a 630 would probably be more perfect in this plane. Unless you're gonna go long range FPV, then do the 631 so you got the external antenna, you should get a little extra range out of it. I still feel like that would be the better option. You'd be doing forward programming. Forward programming is very easy to do, and we have done it on other videos. Doing a VTEL mix is super easy when you use the 631, and the reason I'm telling you this now is because if you were gonna do that, all you would do is you would basically go to system setup, disconnect your RF, and make sure you set your aircraft type to the correct aircraft type, which would be a Delta, VTEL, or whatever, Delta wing. And that is important because the forward programming takes whatever setup you have in here and applies it to the radio system, okay? Whereas this is an aftermarket third-party stabilizer, which is indifferent to the way that you've set up your transmitter because they're all set up a little bit different. Just keep that in mind. If you have questions about this one, ask them in the comments below. We try our best to keep up with comments, but right now I'm a little bit behind. I apologize for that. We don't get too far behind usually, but a couple of weeks in a bad period, and then I get all caught up, and then I try to stay caught up because it's bad when I get behind. So anyway, guys, we really appreciate you guys. Thanks to our sponsors, or I shouldn't say sponsors, but the people that send us stuff so we can review it for you. We really do appreciate you guys. At Banggood for sending us stuff, at Spectra for sending us stuff, Eros. Obviously, we got lots of other companies that I can't think of all of them right now. But if it weren't for the people sending us stuff, we wouldn't be able to do near as much footage for you all. And so big thanks to you for doing that. And we got a new amazing year. So happy New Year's. We haven't said it yet because I don't think we filmed in 2022 yet. Actually, we did one little clip.
Yeah, a little follow-up.
But it was a follow-up clip that was part of a video we filmed last year. So beyond that, we have a busy, exciting year of RC goodness and all sorts of other things. And so we hope that you guys will be around to enjoy it here on Brian Phillips RC. Thanks for watching. Come back for more. All right, YouTube. So after we were done with our unbox, build radio setup video, I made one change that I wanted to talk to you about. If you look inside here, I put in an AR410 as opposed to the AR620, because I said to myself, why are you wasting 6 channels when you can do this with 4? So we used the same NX3, we didn't change where it was located, and then I put a 1000 milliamp 3S pack. Now, this plane calls for upwards of 1850 milliamp 4S. I don't understand why. Okay, center of gravity right here and here, and yes, those labels, those decals are pulling up. So I'm balancing this, and we are just slightly nose heavy, which is what you want on this type of plane. I did have carved that one little spot to be able to get this 1000 in, and then I used the provided Velcro just to hold the extra strap. And what I did was I took the other chunk of the Velcro and I just took and used that back to back. So it's hard to hard or hook style to hook style. And then that goes onto the soft spot because this strap is too big that they included to be able to strap in a 3S in that 1000 milliamp configuration, okay? So just wanted to let you guys know what I did to get everything to kind of fit together. Again, this is the Eachine 650 millimeter Mobula, and it's just got the 2 9-gram servos. We have the stabilizer. I did have to adjust one other function. So I did one mix, and it's rudder to rudder, or excuse me, rudder to rudder. And that just cancels out the rudder channel from being a rudder. And so it's rudder to rudder at -100 to -100 with the switch on. Okay, so it's always on. And what that does is in the menu, you can see in the actual live menu, when I move the rudder, the ailerons move. When I move the ailerons move, see? But the rudder has no impact except for as it pertains to the stabilizer on or off. So all the functions that had happened before to gear are now just directed at rudder, okay? See now, when that's active, the gain moves it from 0 plus, okay? From 0 to plus 150. That changes our gains. And when I'm in this setting, then this one does it the other direction. See how it goes down on the rudder channel? So basically I'm just using the rudder channel like I was using channel 5. So I'm using channel 4 instead of channel 5. Channel 4 just so happens to be attached to one of the sticks, one of the gimbals. So you have to cancel that out. Okay, if you don't understand how we did that, then go back and watch a video that we did a few weeks ago. We did a video on an Arrows, it was a BAE Hawk, and we used the same 410 to accomplish a very similar result. So anyway, as you can see, stabilizer on, gains down, gains all the way up. In the middle is where we expect to be, maybe a little bit below middle. And so we do that so that we have gains, so we can have a stabilizer on or off, depending on the switch condition here. Okay, so just wanted to go over that real quick. Hopefully you guys are seeing this at the very end of the video, and that means we didn't screw anything up. Obviously, we're expecting we're gonna lose these stickers because this thing is really slick, using the nitrite gloves, or nitrile gloves. These things work really nice. They're thin, they still give you good dexterity, and they just help to take the edge off of the cold if you're flying in cold, which you can probably imagine. It's cold out there, and with wind, it gets chilly. So that being said, Eachine 650 millimeters. We're flying this on 3S, 1000 milliamp hours, and it still has way more than 1-to-1 power to weight ratio. So thanks for watching. Definitely check the link in the video description below if you want to help support us by buying this plane or other planes that we have reviewed, other helicopters, other equipment that we've reviewed in the past. That's the easiest way to support us. Or you can do Patreon if you like monthly support gifts, PayPal, or of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. That's obviously an important thing too. So definitely the NX8 has been good. People ask me all the time, should I get the DX6? No. Should I get the NXS? No. Should I get the NX6? No. Get the NX8 or better. If you are serious about doing something like this, you may need a 10 because you're gonna be doing other things that are more sophisticated. If you're doing things like this, you may wanna think about getting the 10. If you get an IX-12 or an IX-20, you're gonna be able to do just about anything you want for any of the different airplanes that come out. But the NX8 has been very good to us. We have only had one channel on one plane that we had to give up a feature, and then we got it back after our maiden flight. So very happy with the NX8. It's been very good in the cold, and yes, some people have been asking, I've got an NX8 and my screen is getting really slow. That's because it's a liquid crystal display. This is not a liquid crystal display. When you go out in the cold, it will not be slowed down because the crystals are getting cold. I had the same problem on my DX18. So without further ado, come back for more. Thanks for watching.